Here we go, 365 Sports on a Friday afternoon with Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for your time from the TFNB, your Bank for Life studio. Brandon Rowe, Logan Begessi, Andrew Valade, and Garrett Ross all today helping run the mothership. We'll have more legal news today on the Trinidad Chambliss eligibility, and now the NCAA trying to get yet another ruling on that to change. We'll look at some of the hot teams and who are expected to be the Final Four teams based on Evan Miyakawa and much more, and an update from various tournaments around the country. But right now, in fact, the White House is hosting, Craig, that roundtable with 40 or 50 different people. One of the concerns is there is not one student athlete, one active player athlete that's a part of that. A lot of names. It's supposed to be about an hour. I would doubt it would end in an hour, although the president does have other things on his plate right now. But the bottom line is what, in fact, do we expect to come out of it, other than is it get something done today that leads to something else, or nothing?
Yeah, I highly doubt they get anything done today that leads to anything substantial in the near term. I don't have really any expectations for this other than people who are in a position of power, have another committee to put on their resume and another photo op for people who want to rub elbows with those people or be in the mix with those people. I think, there's probably some pretty solid conversations that will occur, but whether they actually amount to anything or not, I have very little hope. Can I take a minute and literally a full minute to read every single person that is going to be at this thing?
Yes, go ahead.
So tell me, if all the meetings you've been a part of, what they're typically like, and how many people are typically involved, and the ones that you've been involved with that are usually good about getting things done and getting things in order. And are those, for folks in the chat, what's up, chat, smaller meetings, larger meetings that normally are the more productive ones? This right here is not on the smaller side. This is the full list of people that are showing up at the White House today, and a little bit more, Garrett, if you don't mind. Thank you. But this is the full list of people at the White House today from Ross Dellinger. Internal participants: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, Secretary of Interior Doug Burgum, and if I'm pronouncing some of these wrong, just roll with me. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. External participants: Big East Commissioner Valerie Ackerman, NCAA President Charlie Baker, Notre Dame AD Pete Bevacqua, Sixers, Devils, and Commanders co-owner Dave Blitzer, Texas Tech System Board Chair Cody Campbell, partner in the USFL and Yankees and Fenway Jerry Cardinal, Oklahoma AD Joe Castiglione, Clemson President Jim Clements, Indiana AD Scott Dolson, Senior Personal Counsel to the President Boris Epstein, Managing Director and Co-Founder of SportsCore Mark Gannis, CEO of US OPC Sarah Hirschland, Hockey Hall of Famer Lou Lamoriello, Yankees President Randy Levine, Aces Sports Agent Seth Levinson, former Ohio State, Cincinnati, etc. head coach Urban Meyer, AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, ESPN Chairman Jimmy Pitaro, Tennessee Chancellor Donde Plowman, University of Utah President Taylor Randall, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, former Alabama coach Nick Saban, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, Fox Sports CEO Eric Shanks, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, because no one knows how to make the regular season more important than the guy who's run the NBA regular season into the ground, former star Charlie Ward, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, Wake Forest AD John Curry, Stanford AD John Donahue, Kansas Chancellor Doug Girard, Nebraska President Dr. Jeff Gold, Redbird Capital Robert Klein. So the Wolves in the henhouse. Georgia President Jerry Moorhead, Iowa State AD Jamie Pollard, Notre Dame AD, former AD Jack Swarbrick. Elected officials: Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Louisiana Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Louisiana House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt, Michigan Republican Chairwoman Lisa McClain, Ohio Republican Representative Jim Jordan, Kentucky Republican Representative Brett Guthrie. Is the show over? Are we at 5:30?
No,
yet?
but those are a lot of the names. There's a couple of that were added over the last 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 that.
Oh, I forgot. The esteemed Clay Travis also there from Outkick the coverage or whatever. Outkick, I think, it was Outkick the coverage, but Outkick is there as well. And yeah, he's not on this list. There's probably a couple of others that are missing, but yeah, I don't have a lot of high hopes for this one. I got to tell you, I don't think a lot's going to get done.
Bob Thompson said this yesterday. It's going to be nearly impossible. First of all, I want people to try, anyone, whoever it is, to try to help. What is basically, maybe not everybody agrees with the word chaos or dysfunction, whatever it might be, if they can. Whoever it is, I don't care if it's a guy that's from Kentucky or from Utah. I don't care. Not having athletes involved to have some sort of, representation is a little bit weird. There is a lot of celebrity-type names there, too. It will get a lot of attention. Amanda Kristovich, who we've had on many times, Front Office Sports, is there, and she released this. This is a statement. President Trump has long championed the importance of protecting college sports, preserving opportunities for student-athletes. Today, he will chair this roundtable with Secretary Rubio, Randy Levine of the Yankees, and Governor Ron DeSantis, discussing the issues threatening the future of college sports. There is a concern about threatening the future of college sports. Now, who can fix it or not, I don't know. It can get legal, it can get into government, it can get into Congress, it can get into the NCAA or whoever. But that was one of the comments and statements released today by the White House.
Yeah, I mean, every person who's tried to pick this apart mentions the no actual athletes on this list thing. I mean, Charlie Ward's a former athlete. I think, wasn't Tebow originally invited?
Yeah, he's not going to make it. Yeah, there's a couple that said they could not make it.
But, yeah, I mean, to that point, I kind of see people hammering home that same point as though it's original. And, yeah, it's been noted that there's no current athletes on this list, but it's good that people keep highlighting it just to keep pointing out that it's for all of the people that I just named. I named that just to show you the extent of that list and to show you just kind of all of the names that are involved and actually there and present today. And could be missing a couple like Clay Travis was added after the fact a couple days ago or whenever that was. But, yeah, I'm not trying to poo-poo on them all getting together. I don't, like, how many tables do you need to fit all these people to have a discussion, much less have a real concrete discussion of any sort? The fact that there's Redbird Capital representation there is very interesting, given
private equity?
The last thing, that's the last thing I would want to see. But it's also an avenue, I guess, you want to explore. So I don't think they covered all their bases. I think it's bizarre to have a Redbird Capital guy and not have, like, I don't know, Trinidad Chambliss or somebody there.
Well, he's busy too.
I think you could get an athlete somewhere at some school.
I think
to go
Trinidad
show up.
Chambliss and a couple of guys would be great to have there. Yeah.
Well, another guy. If it's not him, how about Trump's Georgia quarterback buddy? that he just saw the other day. There's plenty of guys that could have done that. They didn't invite any athletes, or at least none are there. So that is suspicious. A lot of representation on one side of the aisle, which is not surprising. And just a lot of questions that they're going to try and answer, and we'll see what they actually come out of the other side of this with. But it does feel like most people are expecting a glorified photo op and just a bunch of people to have, like I said at the beginning, something new on their resume of they were part of this presidential council, which is, an honor. But, yeah, I don't think we're going to enter the weekend here in an hour or two and be like, all right, they fixed it. Everything's good now. But I'm interested to hear what they do say on the other side of it and if there's actually anything notable. Like, did they meet and they just break and they go, well, we're just going to meet again, just talking through a lot of things because, we got 75 people trying to make points. Or are they going to come out and be like, you know what? I think we really, hit on something today. I think it's probably more the former, but in general, this is good that there are at least some very powerful people who are in very powerful positions from the president on down that are trying to, quote-unquote, fix college sports. I just think there's a bunch of people who have different ideas of what that entails, which is good. You don't need to have some singular vision right at the outset. But I just, I don't know what they can actually do. So we'll see, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, if they have any good movement or any ideas that come out in an hour with 45 or 50 people in one room, that'll be a miracle. Not that they can't come up with ideas, but really, is everyone there to talk, listen, or be a part of it? I don't know. I would have, you know who I'd have invited? I would have invited a couple of sports agents. I would have invited Darren Heitner. I know that he's, but those who are moving the needle in some way when it comes to NIL, or maybe not, or find out of a couple of players who feel good about how the things have gone with NIL and the transfer portal, and maybe a couple of players that did not like their experience, so you have both sides of the spectrum.
Well, I know Paul's not with us today, and he had a couple of comments, and they're something I picked up on as well. But, yeah, there's some notable things here as far as who's there and who's not. There are no athletes. There are former athletes. There are no current athletes actually dealing with this system. Charlie Ward has had – I don't know what his family tree looks like at this point, but if he's had a grandkid, I think the grandkid's older than NIL.
He has been out of football since '94.
Right.
College football, yeah.
So he has, like, little experience with it as far as an athlete goes. So, yeah, still he's a former athlete, but not one that's been dealing with what athletes right now are dealing with is my point. So I think not having a current guy.
He is the coach at Florida A&M, which sometimes people forget that.
Okay.
So he's coaching
so
college.
He's one of 12 current or former ex-coaches on this list. The point being there's not an athlete on this list that's dealt with NIL. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, like there's not an athlete that's dealt with it that's on this list. There's no non-Republicans on this list, and there's also nobody from the non-power conferences, or there is from the AAC, but not from like the lower, and I don't mean that to mean, but like there's nobody from the ground floor up.
Yeah,
it's
Gloria Navarez and I think
Pernetti.
Pernetti
So
are the
there's
two there, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of the G5, G6s, and there's the Power 4 guys. But beyond that, there's not if you're one of the smaller school fans, I saw a couple of them pointing this out, there's not a lot of those folks involved. So those are just maybe some of the gaps as far as the bases you don't have covered is the current athlete, both sides of the aisle politically, and then really a kind of everybody for everything in the various levels. But then you'd have 150 people, and we'd be talking about that. And so that is enough people, I think, to get something done, regardless of who isn't there and whatnot. So we'll see. I'm optimistic about just the fact that they're getting together. And beyond that, I have no expectations whatsoever, and I definitely am not of the belief that anything's getting done today or this weekend, and I don't think anybody believes that. No. This is just the initial meeting, but we'll see.
Yeah, and so there we are with that. Here are a couple of quotes from Cody Campbell. Amanda Kristovich, again, is there from Front Office Sports, and if it wraps up and she has anything else that she puts on her feed, we will absolutely get that to you. But here are a couple of the comments from Cody Campbell. Nothing is anything different, really, than maybe he has said before. He said that the goal for today's roundtable, I expect President Trump will encourage the group to work together, set aside tribalism and selfish agendas, and find comprehensive solution that will help save college sports. Also, save all of the sports at all of the schools, both the big and the small. This isn't just about the major college football and basketball. It's about female athletes and Olympic sports. They are at most risk. Now, I've told you about when I've had a conversation with him, a text about that message sometimes doesn't seem to get across to some people because they see you spending a lot of money along with others at Tech with what they do with NIL and the Matador Club. And yet he's saying that he wants to help save women's or college sports that are not the two major revenue spenders. And sometimes that does get like blurred out. But when I've talked to him, he truly does, because if they keep the current system, Tech's going to be just fine. So if he wanted to be selfish, he would say, screw it, I don't want to be involved in this. Let's just move on.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think the thing that I always kind of remind you when you say that, though, is that, yes, they would be totally fine in this current market. Texas Tech, they've got the money to spend, and they'll be A-OK and the most, I think, repped team in the Big 12 with whatever goes on next and moving forward, so long as he's able, along with the others, Womble and various other people are allowed to do the same. As long as they still have that same contingent of people, then, yeah, Texas Tech's going to be A-OK. They don't really have to worry about Iowa State or Kansas State. But I also think at the same time that there is still, no matter how much money Womble, Campbell, whoever pours into Tech or any other program like that, there's still a large gap that you can't always account for year by year, that you want to close, that you are trying to close, that your commissioner actively talks about how can we constantly do that. And so, you know, a really good way to close that gap, have everybody under the same TV contract. So I know what you're saying, that he's especially the women's sports thing, save women's sports. That's very buzzy, and that will definitely perk ears up, as well as saving the Olympic sports. So I do believe that. I also, though, do believe that to think there's not some ulterior motive for any human being would be kind of foolish, because I do think that, yes, Tech, as much as they stand to benefit already from the current system, would stand to benefit even greater potentially from everybody being on the same page. But I do think that, I applaud him for taking this head on and trying to kind of be the figurehead for it, because I wonder where we would be if there wasn't a Cody Campbell as far as like a disruptor goes, and somebody from outside the lines. And you know what? A former athlete himself. So another former athlete you technically count on this list who played college football. But I think he does have more than Tech's interest in mind. I just think you've always got to go off the basis of, but he has Tech in mind first. So, if you can accomplish both, which he's looking to do, then great. And if it does, in fact, if this is what's needed to save those things he mentioned, then I'm all for that, absolutely. I haven't gone over the studies like he has to know whether that's truly the case or not. Like whether if they don't do anything that all of a sudden the women's sports go to the wayside. I don't know. I haven't read every piece of literature about that. But if that is in fact the case, Olympic sports as well, then we need to do everything we can to protect those at the collegiate level. And so I'm totally with him on that. And I think the other people hopefully today get to pick his brain a little bit, who do think that aren't open-minded about what he's trying to do, and that do believe that it is solely motivated by his own selfish reasons, which you see that response from, well, everybody not in like Big 12 territory, basically, right? Like anywhere online you see Cody Campbell brought up, and it's like, he's this, he's that, he's the other, get him out of here. We know that Sankey and those guys don't like him. We know Brett Yormark doesn't even seem to be like over the moon about him. He's not certainly a white knight for the Big 12 in Yormark's view. So, hopefully all these people can get to know each other a little bit better, and maybe it leads to Greg Sankey and Cody Campbell having a conversation and hitting on something, going, hell, you know what? I think we just made some progress here.
No, if they listen to each other.
Yeah.
Here's, again, I want to make this clear. Cody Campbell could easily do nothing. He is a billionaire times whatever. He could just feed Tech. But I think it's pretty cool that he started this campaign about a year and a half or so ago. Doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with him. Doesn't mean that it's going to work. But I think it's pretty cool. Otherwise, I don't think he's into wasting his time. I hope, and it's hard, even that everyone will at least listen. Like, for example, there's a picture of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver.
Get him the hell off this committee,
There's
please.
Nick Saban that's 2 doors down, basically, in this big, large, rectangular table. There are about 15 people on that committee that I'd like to have just for a couple of hours, and I think we could probably get some things done if the decision makers are a part of that 15.
Yeah, a lot of it right now is just Ross Dellinger putting out pics of people in the White House. and so right now it is very much a photo op.
Yep.
Now, are they going to get into a room that apparently will need a giant table or many giant tables to fit everybody? Are they going to do that at some point? Yeah, but right now it's very much like press row, like at the Oscars or something, taking pictures of people on the red carpet kind of a feel in the White House ballroom or whatever. So very cool for those involved. Not that much of interest for those of us hoping that they just get to work and this isn't what it is so far, which is a giant photo op at the White House. And so, I think with Cody Campbell, like I said, I don't trust anybody in this implicitly 100% that they're out for the greater good. I think everybody's got some selfish thing at the beginning of it. Whether you're a commissioner, you're selfishly fighting for your league first and foremost, as we've seen with decisions being made the last several years, time and time again, the commissioners have made it very clear, especially in the SEC, that they are out for their conference, and the rest of it can kind of rot for all they care, because their job's just to commission their conference. But I see some people who, where I'm coming from is there's people who look at Cody like he's like some like He's like he's going to destroy college football.
There are some that look at him.
There are some wild headlines out there.
There are some that misunderstand him, or they look at him as someone they don't trust.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is, I'm not on the he's going to ruin anything. No, I think he has good intentions. I'm just saying that I do think he's just like everybody else, and that they have their core intention. But I am believing and choosing to believe and hoping that he is as sincere as he's presented himself. And if so, then I think that bodes well for conversations like this. But he's also mingling with a lot of people who have made it very clear they don't give a damn about the rest of everybody else. So if he's somebody that does, great. But there are a lot of people, and again, there's some wild like YouTube type of headlines on, is this man, like, it doesn't go this far, but it gets close. It's like, is this the Antichrist of college? Like, it hasn't gotten that far, but it's not far away
Cody
from
Campbell, really?
The destroyer of college football, like things of that nature.
Well, no, we've made that clear. There's people who because all of a sudden it's like Texas Tech and Cody Campbell and a bunch of other guys just all of a sudden lifted them out of the abyss because of how they can, with the rules that are there today, that just look at that part. They only look at the part where he's spending and helping with millions upon millions of dollars. But that doesn't mean that you can't be an entrepreneur or a billionaire and still have good intentions. But he needs to be the one that convinces people if he possibly can.
Yeah, and I think his opportunity is there today to do some of that. I would really hope him and Sankey get into a corner and get to talk for a second. I'd be really interested to eavesdrop on whatever that conversation sounds like, because I get the sense that Sankey really doesn't like a guy like him. Maybe Sankey's writing those headlines. And I say Antichrist to be very overboard with it to a degree, but when you Google, it's not that far from getting there sooner rather than later, based on the way that people think. And it is, to be clear, it is like Big Ten guy hates Cody Campbell. Why? Because he might even the playing field. He might take your Wisconsin Badgers and take their $20 million lead on Kansas State,
or 40
or 60, and say equal, and the cries of this is socialism, what he wants to do. And so there's a lot of things that I've seen trying to pick him apart.
Here's one that seems like some people view him, Cody Campbell, as Robin Hood, steal from the rich and give to the poor.
Yes, some do.
Here's what I say this, and you know how it is right now along the landscape of politics. It doesn't matter if somebody is on one side or the other, red or blue, whatever. They might absolutely agree with a bill or somebody who's speaking about something that's not on a part of their whatever, the party, and they'll still disagree. That's where we've gotten, it seems like to me, no matter what. And it doesn't need to, we're talking about college sports. It doesn't need to be that deep. It's college athletics and sports.
No, it's I don't even want to wade into politics too much, because it's just it's crazy how just awful that discourse has become, and unbearable a lot of that discourse is, because yes, it's team A or team B, and there's no in between resolution. And that is one thing. If you do take a look down this list, and this is as far as I will wade into the political pool, but if you're trying to get like the all-encompassing opinion, it is all Republicans that are, as far as the political representation go. Now, it's a Republican White House, so that makes sense. But if you're trying to get like everybody on board, you'd probably want to have a couple Democrats, but maybe there's some
one
there
Democratic, either senator or representative.
Okay, well, I didn't see that person, so at least there's somebody.
If in fact this was done by somebody who's a Democratic president, it might be the complete opposite. It might be one Republican. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Or maybe not, or maybe it's just that to the point that you were making, like, we need both to make this thing work.
No, you need,
that's where you're like, okay, you're looking at that list, you're like, what's missing? It's like, well, there's not a lot of balance, even though you would definitely think it would lean one way more, and that's the way of the current power. But yeah, there's a lot of people there, so we'll see what happens. And I think Cody Campbell does have good intentions, and I think Texas Tech's going to be fine regardless of whatever the future holds.
All right, so they're meeting, and apparently President Trump now is talking. We'll get you some quotes as we do these next couple of plus hours with the show today. Now, Trinidad Chambliss. Remember the ruling that he could play another year at Ole Miss. The NCAA, though, is now appealing that ruling. The governing body saying the injunction granting Chambliss to play again would cause irreparable harm to the NCAA, as well as Division I schools and teams who play against Ole Miss.
I think It's the NCAA trying to claw back what they can, and I don't know what their odds of success are. I do think it's kind of getting silly, and I don't know what to think about this. I really don't. I don't have a strong opinion on every single thing. And on this, like, I didn't think he should be deemed eligible based on what we knew. And then there's more information that comes out. And admittedly, I wasn't following his case of pneumonia or tonsillitis or, there's all these different things that were going around about what he had or didn't have. I just found it all bizarre to begin with that this wasn't a request until he had a really successful year at Ole Miss. So he wasn't pursuing it to our knowledge prior to last year. But all of a sudden, he's making money and he's at Ole Miss, and it's like, oh, yeah, that year that has been deemed a medical redshirt for the last 2 or 3 years. Oh, now I want to say that's not a medical, or that hasn't been a medical redshirt. Well, now I want that to be a medical redshirt because now I want to play some more. And without knowing when he decided to do that, and if he decided to do that much earlier than I'm indicating, it does look like, yeah, that was never in your mind a medical red shirt until you needed it to be a medical red shirt. And that's when I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know. And the whole fact that the trainers weren't even on board with it originally based on the reporting that I had read. Now, maybe all that changed. I lost interest, honestly, in the details of all this. I only cared about the outcome of it, which was that he got his extra year. So, yeah, the NCAA wants to push back, and they're basically going to try and say that if he gets this year, then it's going to further open the floodgates. And it's like, man, y'all built that shaky-ass gate to begin with. This is just more reaping what you sow, I feel like. And I don't really have a strong opinion on, yeah, I hope they overturn this. Like, selfishly, as just a fan of college football, I want to watch Trinidad Chambliss play another year at Ole Miss. I also, though, at the same time, I don't want to watch Chandler Morris play another year in college football. So where am I in the middle there? Like, can we have both? Next year we're going to have both because one got denied, one got accepted. I don't know that it opens the floodgates any further or that they can be further opened up than they already are when it comes to eligibility. But, yeah, I'll just agree on this, that eligibility is something they've got to figure out. They've got to get some clear rules in place, and yet every time they try to do that, you've got some lawyer barking, saying, well, that's not legal, well, that's not legal, well, that's not legal. So, yeah, I would love to see like 5 to play 4 and just institute that. I know that just being that broad with it's probably not that realistic. It's like saying, if I'm commissioner, everybody's going back to the Southwest Conference. It's like, you can't do that. You don't control that. That's not what you could do. You can't dictate things like that. So there's no magic wand to do those types of things, but I wish there was. It'd make everything a lot simpler.
So there's another quote from this Trinidad Chambliss, the NCAA trying to get the ruling overturned. Tom Mars, who is his attorney and has not been afraid to say things bluntly on his Twitter feed. And again, I don't know if this is healthy or not, but he's saying what he thinks he's saying. Everyone remembers when the NCAA famously appealed to the Supreme Court in the Alston case and got their teeth knocked out by Justice Kavanaugh. I expect the NCAA to be spitting chiclets in this case.
I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't know what the right ruling is because the law gets. What I'm saying is that the NCAA has tried to appeal many things, including Alston and how many others, and they get their teeth kicked in. Is basically what he's saying. They're appealing this. I don't mind the NCAA doing it. They're going to do what's best for them, just like Mars is doing or has done for Chambliss. It's part of what it's all about. But they just don't seem to ever win many of these.
No, I don't know about getting their teeth kicked in. I mean, they have at this point.
Well, Alston case, they got
that's 10 plus years ago, and they've taken some hits. I don't know if it's going to be like that dramatic, this ruling. I think it could be like they just get one hitter quittered, and rather than teeth knocked out. It could be short, sweet, and to the point. But regardless, I expect them to take a loss here just because that's what they do famously. They're a tomato can. They're a jobber in the court system, and that's all they've ever been, quite frankly. They've won a case here and there, but I would expect that Trinidad Chambliss is probably going to get his way, and the NCAA will continue to argue that this further erodes their authority to determine eligibility, and I do feel for them in that regard. But hopefully one of the things that's being talked about today at the White House, which I've already seen salary cap used, so this ought to be interesting. And I know that everybody in that room is definitely not on board with that, but Yeah, I wish that the eligibility thing would get addressed sooner rather than later. That's one of my personal bugaboos as far as a college fan right now goes, is just not simply knowing, is this the guy? Is this the last time I'm watching this guy, or is this not the last? Or has he got 2 years left? Like
how do you? I don't know. I'm worn out by a lot of it. I am, whether players are asking for an extra year or somebody's trying to keep them or prevent them from an extra year. I'm worn out by it, which means that the rules, they suck, because not everybody even knows the rules. Not the players, not the attorneys, not the agents, not the coaches, not the presidents, not the ADs or commissioners. Nobody knows the rules. And that is weird, because everyone feels like, even if the rules do say A, B, and C, if you see the NCAA, there's a good chance that it's supposed to be D, E, and F too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of them actually do know the rules. They just know that those rules aren't concrete. I mean, they know the rules, but they go, well, technically, that tonsillitis was a medical red shirt, so that rule doesn't apply here. So the rule's the rule, but it doesn't apply in every case, or it can be bent one way or the other, or challenged, which is basically what they're doing here and what they've done most of the time. And yeah, it folds like a napkin in the wind in the court system. So it's an interesting case, and I'm intrigued by the end game of it all. We'll see what the arguments are for and against, and kind of go from there. But yeah, on the one hand, I would love to see Trinidad Chambliss play at Ole Miss next year. I think he's a great player, a lot of fun to watch. And on the other hand, I don't want it to open the door to where, yeah, we have Chandler Morris or guys like that who are like, I want to play 8 years, 7 years at 5 schools. I don't like that personally. I'm fine with guys jumping around a little bit. Not that it's my decision to make, but like I got used to that really quickly. I don't love it still. I don't love that. Like I'm watching the combine. It's like this guy's played at Notre Dame, Penn State, and Toledo. This guy's played at Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Maryland. This guy's, it's like instead of just you were at Oklahoma and you were at Notre Dame and you were, every single guy seemingly had made at least a couple stops or at least one stop somewhere else. And yeah, I don't love that, but that's not going to change. Just the amount of time you have to do all those things, though, is what could change with some eligibility rulings. But I don't know how close we are to that and how much this will change that.
Kyle Tucker's a basketball analyst, writer, covers college basketball. Of course, we're into the last weekend. Some conferences have already wrapped things up, and some will start their tournaments next week. And then again, Selection Sunday, 1 week from Sunday. He'll join us today in about 8 to 10 minutes. Here's not a lawsuit, but it was a patent and trademark ruling. If you look, I don't know if you have this up, Brandon, or not. Grambling, there you are. There's the Green Bay Packers helmet. There's the Gilmer Buck. No, that's actually Grambling University. And then Georgia, all of them. Every one of those G's is all, it's like it's all the same. And the Packers, of course, have a patent. Georgia has a patent. And the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office registered to Grambling State University, and they have been approved to continue to use their G on the side of their helmet.
Good for them. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, good for Grambling and getting that trademark. I believe I'd read that it had been many years long. They had been fighting for that. So, yeah, I think it's a really cool logo, hence why so many people are trying to use it or have been using it. It's a solid logo that looks good in all 3 of those versions you see up there. But, yeah, I always wondered about that as a kid, watching the Packers in Georgia, and wondered how that was possible until I learned about kind of the history of it all. But, yeah, Grambling belongs in that group as well. They've been rocking it for the longest, and so for a long time. And, yeah, I think it's cool that they were able to get that done and get that taken care of. And I don't know what maybe drama there was in doing so, or how long and embroiled that battle to do so was, or if it was just simply like waiting on it and being patient. But I know that's a big deal for them, so good for Grambling.
I'm happy for them. By the way, a year ago, University of Cincinnati sent a cease and desist to a middle school in Tennessee, and the middle school had to change their mascot and logo. There is still one out, a trademark issue. Baylor University sent one to Boston University about the interlocking BU design, and that case remains on the docket. So it can get a little serious. This here, they all were kind of comfortable with it. Yeah, let's move on. It doesn't hurt. everybody do what they do. Before we get to Kyle Tucker, here's a comment. The NCAA, again, tournaments going on. The women's tournament, by the way, for the Big 12 going on in Kansas City and elsewhere around the country. This is a list of 6 teams who have 0 losses outside of what is called Quadrant 1 or Tier 1, top 1 quadrants. You have quad 1, 2, 3, and 4. The more quad wins you have, the better you have a chance to be in the tournament, and you don't want to have too many bad quad 4 losses, if any. The schools, 6 of them, that have not lost to anybody that is outside of what they call quad 1, Arizona, Duke, Houston, Nebraska, Purdue, and unbeaten Miami of Ohio. 6 teams that have not lost, have not had a bad loss, because everybody seems to have at least 1 or 2 bad losses. That's down to just 6 as we enter the last week of what will be the regular season in NCAA men's basketball. Quad 1 is the top tier of the NCAA's net rating, representing the high-quality opponents. Quad 1A is a subdivision of Quad 1 created to highlight elite wins, often defined as home games against teams ranked inside the top 15, and neutral site games against top 25, road games against top 40. They started that quite some time ago. Earlier today in the Big 12 women's tournament, Kansas State winning against Oklahoma State to advance into the semifinals, the first time in that tournament that a 12 seed has advanced to play into the semifinals. Oklahoma State was the number 4 seed entering the tournament.
Yeah, I believe there was some controversy. I don't know how to detail it exactly. I just saw that Oklahoma State's coach, is it J.C. Hoyt, was complaining about something that occurred there at the end, and I didn't get to see what exactly she was talking about, but there did seem to be, when I looked right before the show, a little bit of controversy about how that unfolded.
Well, Bracket Cat, the old barn cat, you guys were in the chat room discussing the win for K-State. Honestly, and take off your purple, let us know what the coach might be talking about. I know Wet Blanket's an Oklahoma State fan. If you wouldn't mind giving us an update on that, I have no idea.
You want an update on how the
TCU, by the way, the women number 10 in the country, beat BYU by 17.
Want an update on how things are going at the White House?
Sure.
How's this quote? How far along are we getting here? Donald Trump, according to Ross Dellinger, doesn't want to return to the days where players get no compensation, he says. But he then interrupts and goes off script saying, it's not the worst idea in the world. So,
yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
You're not going to put the hay back.
No, that's definitely not happening.
Yeah, the hay's not going back in the barn,
no, that's
baby.
definitely not happening. So we're going to get some zingers out of this thing today. I can already tell. And, yeah, that just came across, and I could not mention that. So, yeah, we're not getting back to that point no matter how powerful he is because, yeah, that's just not happening. But it's not the worst idea in the world, he said. And there's a lot of people that are going, I know, it definitely isn't.
Can we go back to 1976? Yeah, but it's not. You're not going backwards. Brandon, give me the Steve Sarkisian audio clip. This isn't very long. As you know, earlier this week, Texas hired Mark Stoops to be a special assistant to the head coach, Sarkisian. Texas beat Kentucky last season in an overtime game. And what was amazing about that,
they got really good coaches, and I have a ton of respect for
Brandon,
Coach Stoops. He's
can you?
been doing it a long time. They played good at the line of scrimmage. I thought they played well in the secondary. I thought they hit some timely blitzes that caused some issues in the backfield in the run game and the pass game, and got pressure on the quarterback. And they minimize the explosive plays, which is the way they play. You know, they can start shrinking the field on you. So, and we never were able to get them out of that. We had opportunities to do it. We didn't take advantage of it. And so, but a credit to Kentucky. They came to play defensively tonight. They did a nice job.
That's Sarkisian. I was going to pitch to that, but I think it started running, which is fine. That's Sarkisian after the game against Kentucky. There were 2 games last year where Texas found a way. And one of them was the game with Mississippi State when they were down big and they had the long punt return at the end that got them back in the game completely, and then won it in the Kentucky game at the doorstep on like 4 plays at the goal line and couldn't get in, and then Texas kicked the field goal to win that game. And that was Sark complimenting Mark Stoops in the defense at Kentucky, and now a part of the UT staff. All right, when we come back, Kyle Tucker from 247 and CBS Sports on men's basketball. As we hit the last weekend of the regular season, some men's conference tournaments have begun. I've already seen 2 length, like 3/4 and half-court shots to win a game. That and more. Kyle Tucker next on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. As you get older, part of Father Time, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that is you. Maybe you feel or experience some of these symptoms. Your sex drive is not the same. And if it is, you don't perform the same. Your energy is by no means the same. You feel like lethargic. You even have a little belly fat around you, and you haven't had that. You're in pretty good shape and have a really good diet. It happens. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and Dr. Petty wants to help you out. Go to his website, pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work wherever you are. Take care of that. Get the blood work and the results, and then get back in touch with you. And it might be, hey, you're good to go. And then again, it might be your low or your T level is very low. We need to do something about it, give you an option to increase it. At pettycliniclowt.com.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks.
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about-
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
One of the quotes from Amanda Kristovich for Sports is from Yankees president Randy Levine. There's one group that is missing, but they won't be missing from the final product, and that's the student athletes, and promises that they will be talking to athletes without a question. Also said that there has to be an antitrust exemption. The negotiations have to include athletes. Major League Baseball, of course, has the antitrust exemption. And also he said he's been told by President Trump that it will be, if they ever get to a point, that whatever is agreed upon, if they can do that, will be bipartisan in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they weren't there today when you're kicking this all off, but I mean, that's encouraging to hear for the folks that have been, wondering about that, which was most everybody that I saw today was wondering why there weren't more student athletes involved. So, yeah, he addressed that, and that's good to know. And, yeah, the bipartisan part, as much as people in some circles, loathe the other side or what have you, this is a bipartisan issue. You got schools from all over the country and leaderships of all sorts. This isn't something that you can just one side of the aisle is going to get it done by themselves.
I wish I could show you the video as we wait Kyle Tucker about to join us. I don't know if anyone saw it. And Logan Begesse, Andrew Valade, Garrett Ross, and Brandon Rowe are like our video police, that we can't use some video on our show because of a YouTube rule. But I have to bring it up. I'll put it up. I'll put the link up in the chat room in the message board that a girls basketball team was down by 4 with like 10 seconds left in the game and won by like 5. It was insane, all within 5 feet of the basket. I'll put that up for you here in just one moment. I mentioned again that UNC, North Carolina, Caleb Wilson, who won't probably be the number 1 pick, a 6'10" guy out of North Carolina, stud, he's out for the year. Had surgery already on a broken thumb, and he is out for the year. And you wonder, North Carolina 24-6 on the year, just lost their dude to an injury as we get to that particular point of the season. So we've had Saunders at BYU, Toppin at Texas Tech, Wilson now at North Carolina, as some of the bigger names are falling by the wayside when it comes to getting close to the tournaments in college basketball. Also, in the chat room, thank you for your time whenever you're there. If you have not hit the like button, please do. If you have not hit the subscribe to our channel, we would appreciate you do that too. And if you have, pass that along to somebody else along the way. We would love for you to become a part of our family of 365 Sports. Nick Saban, this is an unlikely position for me to be in. I don't know if it's unlikely. Do you?
No, I don't think it's unlikely that the most famous college personality that's not a player is involved in this esteemed panel. No, I don't think that that's all that unlikely at all. I don't know why he feels that way. Maybe he'll expand upon that. But I would think he was actually, if you polled people, one of the first 2 or 3 names that was probably mentioned across party lines, regional lines, conference lines, what have you. The guy who's most often mentioned seriously about being a commissioner, along with like maybe, I won't say Mac Brown gets mentioned as much as that, or even an Urban Meyer or somebody. But yeah, I don't think it's all that shocking. But maybe he's talking about being a little boy from West Virginia and being in the White House. Although I think he's been there plenty of times before, so that doesn't make sense either. But yeah, whatever. Everybody's getting their quotations and their photo ops, and hopefully a little bit of work's getting done. A lot of quotes being thrown around, a lot of optimism, but we'll see in the wash. Like anything else, you can talk a big game, but can you actually go and do something about what that subject is? And in this case, it's proven a lot harder than just talking about it. So we'll see. All
right, we will see. Still no Kyle? Nothing? Okay, waiting on him to join us here in just 1 second.
Yeah, and by the way, they're not being video police. It's called copyrights. They're trying not to get the channel taken down as far as the videos go.
I know that. I just like to maybe give them I want people to not like them. I don't want people to not like them.
That's really, really smart strategy for us in the channel is to have our producers not like doing their jobs. That's genius.
Yeah, it's good for those who control the audio, the video, the lighting, and everything else. We're now joined by Kyle Tucker, 247 Sports and CBS Sports, college basketball writer, content, and more. And he has been a busy man. And Kyle, finally, I wore you down, and thank you. Your schedule finally lightened up. How do you describe right now? This is your time of the year. You cover college basketball, but how would you describe this time of the year for you?
Christmas.
Yeah.
I think for everybody that cares about college basketball, the conference tournaments, to me, particularly the small conference tournaments, are so much fun. I mean, this year everybody's gonna be watching the MAC tournament like never before to see if Miami of Ohio can get through. But all of those small conference tournaments, because you get to see these programs that they've got to win it to get in it, and the desperation that we see in the NCAA tournament and the magic of that kind of starts a week early, 2 weeks early in some of these smaller leagues, and then it just runs until April of just every night is sort of desperation basketball, and it's the best kind of basketball.
What was your take on Bruce Pearl and Miami of Ohio, that the 30-0 team? I think they play, a game tonight. But your thoughts about, and that's what you mentioned as far as that conference. What was your take on what Bruce Pearl said?
I mean, kind of ridiculous. Ridiculous, I think, in part because we know that he has a rooting interest, and he basically came out and acknowledged that rooting interest, that, his own son is at Auburn on the bubble, very much on the bubble. I mean, why even on the bubble at this point when you're a game over 500? But he's advocating for that. And when you say that a team like Miami of Ohio, if they go 32-0, 31-0 in the regular season, say they even get to 33-0 and get to the MAC championship game and then don't win that they don't belong in the field. Knowing that by saying that, what you're really advocating for is that, there's another at-large spot available to a team like your son's barely above 500 team. I think the motivation of that is what really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and a lot of people called it out. I understand Bruce wanting good things for his son, but I don't think he has to pop off at the mouth about somebody else's program and their merit of getting in the field in service of that. So pretty obnoxious, I guess, it would be the way I would describe it. I understand that you can make some cases against them getting in if they don't win their conference tournament, but I think they absolutely deserve to be in. If you run the table, if they can finish the regular season undefeated, they're knock their schedule one. Now we know that Miami of Ohio tried to schedule a lot of power conference teams, and that basically what they were told is most of the leagues are telling their teams in the power conferences, schedule quad 1 or quad 4. Don't schedule anything in between, because everything in between can get you beat, and those are bad losses. Schedule quad 4 games that you're definitely going to win. Schedule quad 1 games that if you lose, they don't hurt you, but if you win, they really help you. And nothing else. And you can tell that there's a lot of teams taking that approach. And so they tried to schedule a bunch of teams and couldn't. There was an open records request. It's escaping me now who put it in, but came out yesterday that all the teams they had tried to schedule. So it's not for lack of effort. And the other point I would make about a team like that is how many mid-major or low mid-major programs are there every year that play a schedule like this that is weak and don't run the table. Nobody runs the table. And so they've done something historic, and I think you reward that. And I think college basketball fans, even non-college basketball fans, the casual fan who tunes in just for March, can and will and wants to appreciate a story like Miami of Ohio, and they belong in the field.
Kyle, the Big 12 is man, it's just a crazy ride every single night. Just the other night, massive upset after massive upset. Injuries also playing a big wild card factor for some of these teams, and drama with Darren Peterson and Lawrence. There's just all sorts of really interesting things going on as we enter this postseason stretch. What comes to mind when you think of the Big 12? Is it Arizona being the champs and having a great crack at the title? Like what is kind of on your radar as far as the Big 12 at this point?
Well, as you said, I mean, to me, no shortage of storylines. I think it's the most compelling league in the country right now. I mean, Arizona's dominance has been really, really impressive. I think Houston is going to be there. They're going to be a threat all the way to the end. Texas Tech, super fascinating because they were one of those challengers, and then sort of almost immediately written off when JT Toppin went down, and then they went and won a bunch of really tough games. I mean, you lose JT Toppin and you beat Iowa State on the road. You beat Arizona on the road. To me, they are a fascinating story, and I think part of the story in the league is how many good coaches there are, and I think Grant McCasland is a star. But that's kind of across the board in that league. And speaking of, you have one of the other great stories that's emerging right now. You had Wes Miller at Cincinnati,
Uh-huh.
dead to rights. I mean, they were cooked. He was cooked. I think there was no question he was hurtling towards being fired the minute this season ended. And now they've won 6 out of 7. Absolutely smoked BYU. And BYU, by the way, is just cratering in the absence of Richie Saunders. Another huge storyline. You've got the #1 player in America playing great on his own, individually playing great, and AJ DeBonsa. But when he loses his running mate and Richie Saunders, it's the wheels have completely come off for BYU. But the fact that Cincinnati was able to go win at Kansas and win convincingly at Kansas, and get on this roll with, I think if they win Saturday at TCU, again, that's no easy task either. But if you pull that off, they're probably in the tournament safely. And maybe Wes Miller saved his job in the last month of the season. So those are some of the things I'm looking at. And then obviously we know there's already been a bunch of buzz about the floor. I'll be paying attention to the court itself in the Big 12 tournament. I know it's already gotten some run in the women's tournament and already gotten a fair amount of criticism. All those things are valid. I'm fascinated by that floor technology. I've been following it for a while now, a couple of years, and I do think it's got some really interesting uses. And anyway, I'm curious about even the floor in the Big 12 tournament.
That's when you know you got a really interesting league, is when even the court
Yeah.
is a talking point at a potential story.
Yes.
Yeah, not everything that's new is accepted. There's a lot of things like depend on your age. Like, oh my God, it happens. There's probably some things they got to tweak. We'll see what happens. But Yormark and the league going about their business. So every week, Kyle, I think I know who the best freshman is in the country, and then every week, the next week, it changes. From Boozer to DeBansa to Peterson if he's playing. And then I watched Darius Acuff at Arkansas, and my goodness, what a year he is having. How do you separate them, or can you?
No, I mean, it's a challenge. Acuff has come on strong. I mean, I think he had flown a little bit under the radar. People put him on that list of like, these are the really good freshmen. He had played well, but then he really announced himself with a 49-point game where he played all 50 minutes in double overtime against Alabama in a crazy shootout that they had. And he's just continued to play absolutely lights out. Now the debate, I covered Kentucky for a long time and the early, the heyday of the Calipari era. And everybody knows his reputation for having these elite one and done point guards in particular. And Acuff has entered the conversation of, is he the best Calipari point guard ever? And that includes John Wall, a #1 pick. It includes, this laundry list of guys, De'Aaron Fox, all these guys that have come through. Tyler Ulis, SEC Player of the Year. The list is insane. Eric Bledsoe, on and on and on. Is he the best? By the way, forgot Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP of the NBA. The fact that Acuff's in that conversation, and I think, statistically, just numbers, he is the best. He is the most productive. I'll say that he's been the most productive point guard of the Calipari run of all these elite guys, and so he's in the conversation. I don't think anybody's winning National Player of the Year besides Boozer. He's just been consistently dominant from basically wire to wire. He was sort of preordained, and he has lived up to it in performance. And so I don't think it'll change. He's also that's an award. The National Player of the Year is also an award that is always going to go, almost always going to go to a guy on one of the handful of the best teams in America. And he's playing on the most dominant team in America, Boozer is. So I think he wins it, but you could make a case for a bunch of different guys on any given night. I'll just say I love watching Acuff play, and if I was an NBA fan, I'd be just fine anywhere at the top of the draft if my team took Darius Acuff.
Kyle, how many teams do you think are capable of winning the title? There seems to be like a top tier of Michigan and Arizona and like Florida and Duke and it's like kind of some of the front runners. But how many teams do you eye as being able to cut down the nets here in about a month or so?
I think Duke and Michigan are my two favorite teams in terms of just the teams I think are at the very, very top. Arizona is pretty close to being right there. Florida has come on as hot as they can be. Florida looks very much now like a repeat national championship contender. Todd Golden's figured this thing out. The guards are not as good this year as they were a year ago, but the front court is just freakishly dominant. And so we're seeing, we're seeing Florida really surge. They've won 10 in a row, I think 15 out of 16, basically dominate everybody inside and on the offensive and defensive glass. Nobody can make a layup against them. The layup stats are absurd against Florida. I think they're right in that conversation. I would put UConn somewhere in a tier below, but I'm going probably Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida as my top four. I think UConn is right there. I think Iowa State and Houston are right there. Can contend, but I think there's a clear top four right now in my mind.
Kyle, one more thing. The injury to Caleb Wilson at North Carolina, stud player, great player. They're 24-6. So you had Saunders at BYU, who's not really thought of as an All-American, but a hell of a player. And they haven't been able to handle it as well. Tech has done okay without Toppin, although they lost recently, and how that affects them in the tournament. And now Wilson at North Carolina. Your thoughts about how that affects them besides the obvious?
Yeah, I mean it lowers their ceiling quite a bit. They've done okay without him. They've won their last 4 games without him, and he really depressing thing that he got hurt again. He got hurt in kind of a fluke as he was trying to get ready to come back from his other injury. An unbelievable player. Again, you talk about like who's at the top of the draft, who are the best players in the country, who are the best freshmen in the country. Caleb Wilson is very much, when he's healthy, he's very much in all those conversations. He is a fantastic player. He does many things well. I think he's also got a great sort of energy about him, personality about him. I think the team responded to him a lot. And so I think it's a huge blow to their, any kind of idea they're going to make a deep run. I don't foresee a deep tournament run without Caleb Wilson. I think they could have made one with him. But that's just, I think it really highlights how much injuries have played a part. Injuries and worry of injuries, if we want to fold in Darren Peterson, have played a part in the story of this college basketball season unfolding. I mean, you mentioned Richie Saunders at BYU, now Caleb Wilson at UNC, Darren Peterson and the will he, won't he, and is he hurt, is he sick, is all these things. It's been pretty depressing actually to see some of these guys go down. But the sport is so loaded right now that even as all these guys go down, JT Toppin at Texas Tech, even as all these guys go down, there's still a bunch of studs available, and there's a bunch of really great dominant teams that I think are going to make this an incredible tournament.
Do you feel like Bill Self has been tested this year more than ever because of Peterson? They're also not quite as good, and they just got drilled. Then they are also a team that's won some huge games too.
Yeah, I mean, for my money, Kansas has got to be the most perplexing team in America. I think Self has basically talked about it like one of his most confusing teams. I think he said recently that he had never gotten this deep into a season without really understanding, figuring out who his team is. And it was hard to know that all year because he clearly, not only did the general public not know it, it was pretty apparent that Self on a given night didn't know what he was going to get out of Darren Peterson. Is he going to play? I mean, he went into one game saying he thought he was going to play and didn't play at all. I think he's gone into many of these games thinking he was going to have him for the entirety of the game, and then he gets a tap on the shoulder, and kid sits down, and that's that. And I cast no judgments on that because I'm not privy to Darren Peterson's medical situation or any of his other private information to know why you would do that. But I know it has to, whatever the reasons, valid, whether they're valid or not valid, it would be a nightmare for a coach to have to navigate that when not only his best player, but his guy who could take over and dominate any game they play, his availability is constantly not just game to game, but within a game. I mean, there have been multiple games that Peterson dominated the first half and then tapped him on the shoulder and sat down for most of the second. I don't know how you coach that. And part of him not being able to figure his team out, I think, has been, how do you establish an identity of what you are as a whole team when you're never really a whole team? And how do you establish the personality of your guys who are not Darren Peterson when they have to play one way without him, where it's got to be all on them? And then he comes back and the inclination is definitely to defer to Darren Peterson. And maybe they step back from being what's made them good, because they did go beat Arizona without Darren Peterson. They clearly have guys that are talented enough, even if he's not on the floor, to beat some of the best teams in the country. But when he's out there and you don't know what you're going to get and how much you're going to get of him, I'm not sure anybody knows how to respond to him. And yes, to answer your question, that's a lot of words. I think Self has been really tested. I think he's been kind of exhausted by this season. And it'll be fascinating to see, where they go from here.
Kyle, thank you. Appreciate your time. Director of Basketball Content, 247 CBS Sports. We appreciate it. Enjoy the tournaments this weekend, the rest of the regular season for some this weekend, and then, my God, it's just around the corner. March Madness. Thank you for your time, and have a great rest of the year.
Thank you. Take care.
Kyle Tucker with us on 365 Sports. Story director at Elevate Creative as well, and his thoughts about many things. Yeah, the Caleb Wilson story for North Carolina came down this afternoon, and another big name that is not going to play anymore for the rest of the season. When we come back, there's a couple more of the where and who will be your head coach, with about 4 teams just randomly around the country that there's a rhyme or a reason in 2030. Also today, we will have yet another great segment, Rick Saratella. He will talk about the NFL Combine, NFL Draft, what's changed since post-Combine. And we will also hear from Jeremy Modkins, former TCU star and safety, who's now a part of the staff at Baylor as the cornerbacks coach. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO. I spoke with Ted, in fact, yesterday evening on the way home from doing the show. He's got a lot of moving parts. He's got a lot of moving parts and a lot of great cars, trucks, and SUVs on his lot. A new month, of course, has started. There will be new incentives from the various dealers or distributors soon, and we'll have those for you. I had a car that needed to just get a checkup, the 2017 Ford Explorer, just a regular checkup, and I was able to drive around on a Jeep Wrangler, and it was fantastic. I've driven some Jeeps before as loaner cars, and they were loud and bulky. This one had none of that. It was fantastic. Jeep Wrangler on the lot at Alan Samuels. There's no need to say much more than just Ram truck. Whatever it is, 1,500, 2,500, 3,500, big ones and the ones that are sleek like an SUV. They are the best when it comes to trucks. Ram trucks awarded, honored so many different times, year after year. And then Jeep with the SUVs, from the Jeep Grand Cherokee, from the Wagoneer, which came out, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. But when it came out, long and sleek and beautiful, and they have those on the lot. New, and of course they also have pre-owned. It is Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
The reason that their service is outstanding because the people they have working, behind the desk, and the folks working out in the garage, taking care of business. And they give you a date, they give you a time, and they're spot on. And they're professional, they take care of it, and they answer all your questions, and they're fun to work with.
Like Alan Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
This is 365 Sports.
Bobby Taylor, covered him as a multi-sport star at Longview High School. He played at Notre Dame. won numerous awards, consensus All-American, and then a part of the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles for a long time and 1 year with the Seahawks, and he joins us. Craig Smoak and David Smoak on 365 Sports. And Bobby, I know you're incredibly busy as a businessman and just life itself, so we appreciate you joining us today. I'll never forget, you told me we were trading texts back and forth when some of the news about Lou Holtz started to come out that he was not doing as well. How much he meant to you, and can you try to pass that along and explain that to our audience here on 365 Sports? And thanks for your time.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I mean, yeah, Coach Holtz was, very impactful on my life. I wouldn't have probably ended up going to school at Notre Dame if it wasn't for Coach Holtz. I can remember like it was yesterday when he came and visited me at Longview High School, came to my grandparents' home on the south side of Longview as well. And so just to know that I was that important for him to come, and I was actually one of the first guys that in that class to commit, because, I felt like, if I committed, if there were some other guys that may have been, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, maybe that could help them make a decision as well. And Coach Holtz really appreciated that. And then just with, all of the life lessons, not just on the field, in between the lines, but, Coach Holtz was a motivator. He was a father figure. He was, disciplinarian, like all of the above. And, just to have that special relationship with him. The last time that I was able to spend some one-on-one face-to-face time with him was this past season, during the season up in South Bend. He was there, and and it's funny, it's like, even at his age, one of the first things he would say is like, "Hey, how you doing? Is there anything I could do for you?" And it wasn't really much he can do for me at that particular time, because I just wanted to be able to spend time just to watch some of the game, just talk about maybe some of the old times. But that's just the type of man that he was, not just coach. And, I've seen a lot of the different shout outs and tributes for him, not just on sports channels, but on mainstream news channels and all of the above. And, there have been folks that I haven't probably contacted or been in contact or communication with in a long time. I've received, some of these folks didn't even know they had my contact info, but, just received some of the different texts because, at the time, there weren't many people that I knew about from my area where I grew up that, attended the University of Notre Dame. And, I think by me going there, and obviously Coach Holtz being the coach at the time, maybe made some folks here in Texas become Notre Dame fans. Because fortunately, and I like to throw this out there, my first 2 years, we played in the Cotton Bowl, beat up on Texas A&M pretty good, and was able to go 2-0 against a lot of the guys that were my peers that I competed against in high school and all of the above. But yeah, Coach Holtz just was a great human being. He lived a great life, impacted so many different people, not just guys that played for him, but, even some of the students that went to some of the institutions, and specifically Notre Dame, coaches. He has a crazy coaching tree. When you think about coaching trees, a lot of the great coaches that have gone on to, have their own great careers as head coaches and all of the above. But yeah, I was very fortunate enough to be able to be a part of his life. I was very fortunate enough to be on, his teams. And, I use a lot of some of the life lessons that I know that he taught me and a lot of my teammates with, the way that I lead, the way that I show up and serve, the way that I raise my family and all of the above. But yeah, definitely Coach Holtz was a great man.
Yeah, Bobby, I was going to ask you just kind of, I imagine there's multiple life lessons, but is there one you can offer up that you still find yourself, using, as you mentioned, in your line of work or in your line of being a family man? Like, what are a couple maybe anecdotes you can give us that you still carry with you and how you operate these days?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty simple with Coach, and that's the great thing, right? It wasn't very complex at all. I mean, I know a lot of people try to make a lot of different things complex, but for Coach Holtz, it was like, hey, treat people right, do your best, and that's all that he would want from us, right? Treat people right. We want people to treat us right, and it seems so simple, especially nowadays when you just maybe sit back and think about how crazy social media can get, and all of the above. But just show up, do your best, treat people right. I mean, if we do that, I mean, the world definitely would be a better place for sure.
What was the first thing you mentioned that you went to Notre Dame, and absolutely Notre Dame had played Texas in a national championship game and a few others. But what was like the first thing you remember he said to you? Can you go back that far?
Yeah, so when we first touched down on campus, we reported as freshmen, and the upperclassmen, they weren't there in South Bend yet. And one of the things he was like, hey, when the older guys get here, there's going to be a noticeable difference as far as the size. And then also he said, hey, those days of just sleeping 8 hours a day, that's probably over, just based on our schedule from practice. Academics came first being at Notre Dame, especially with, the threshold being higher than just a normal NCAA school. So the combination of all of those things, don't be intimidated by these guys that are getting ready to come on campus. And those days of you being able to sleep 8 hours a day, wherever you came from, that's over as well. So that's probably my the first thing I can remember, especially, touching down, because, being so far away from home and, all of the above, there's a lot going through. And then you think about, hey, I'm here on scholarship and, I want to try to break into the starting lineup, be able to play. And so just all of those things. But those were the first two things that I definitely can remember Coach Holtz said when we touched down on campus in South Bend for a summer training camp.
Bobby, do you have a favorite game that you guys won that brings him to mind, that maybe because of something he said during it or the post game? Is there like a favorite game memory that you have of Coach Holtz?
There are probably just so many, but
yeah.
I spoke about it earlier. I would just highlight, look, me being from Texas A&M was one of the schools that I went on for an official visit, along with University of Miami, Notre Dame, and then USC. I only took 4, I think, of my official visits. And so to come back home, to play in the Cotton Bowl here in Texas, to be basically back home, being around so many different people, playing against guys that I competed against throughout my high school career, to be able to get those 2 victories my freshman and sophomore year, for me personally, those are probably the 2 sweetest victories that Coach Holtz coached us in.
Notre Dame has jumped right back in it with Marcus Freeman, Bobby, and we're on the cusp of a national in the game. And then, of course, they've been knocking on the door. Last year didn't end as well. Didn't play in the bowl game. They were pretty upset about what they thought was the snub. But your thoughts about it? Seems like they're right now, right in the back, and relevant as ever before.
Yeah, Marcus is wonderful. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to meet him and spend some time with him. I actually I'm pretty much back on campus every other month, but I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to the team last off season. But yeah, I mean, he has us back relevant like we need to be. And I know you mentioned a little bit about not playing in the bowl game, which I totally supported that, just because there are so many guys that probably would have opted out because of their draft status and all of the above. And so, like I said, I supported that, 100%. But yeah, Marcus definitely has us relevant, always having top recruiting classes and just being able to be in the fight every year. Of course, we wanted to be a part of the CFP this past season, but that wasn't in our cards. But to be able to just only lose 2 games and, end the season on the run that we had, I was very proud of those guys. And, we're all anticipating having a great season this fall as well.
So, Bobby, I know that it is what it is. You played at a time when college football was very different than it is now, and there's actually a meeting going on at the White House. They're trying to figure out all of the things that are going on that are these problems and whatnot, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle and transport yourself, but I'm sure you get asked all the time about, like, how much NIL money do you think you would have made back then, especially as a top recruit? How often do you even spend time thinking about that, and do you – I would imagine on the one hand, you feel like you could have made a lot of money. At the same time, you also played in an era where things seemingly made a lot more sense. Like, how do you kind of just view the chaos is the word that you hear a lot about college football these days?
Well, I'm actually happy with, these young men, these young women being able to, get paid off of their name, image, and likeness. And, I really do not think a lot about, hey, if I was playing during this time or if this was happening when we were playing. I'm really more so thinking about from a strategic standpoint, like, how can we make this better? How can we protect these young men and women? Because, they're actually like real targets. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to, do what I do for the league office, and being a strategic advisor for our football operations department. And we were just at the Combine in one of our committee meetings where we had high school governing bodies, coaches associations, the National High School Coaches Association, different partners, the NCAA, and just really having like open and candid conversations about, figuring out, is there something that should be put in place, which I think it should, for these young men and young women. Because, for example, I mean, their agents and agencies, they can be represented by people that aren't even certified as an agent to even negotiate some of these contracts. And the result of that is you're having individuals who in a lot of cases may not be qualified, and the percentages that they're charging these young men and women, I mean, just grossly like overcharging. And in some cases, they're asking these young men and women to sign deals like into perpetuity. So these young men and women need to be protected. I'm not sure who exactly is there at the White House, but I hope, some of these conversations are happening. I hope there are members from not only maybe former coaches, athletic directors, but even some of the athletes themselves as well, right? Because I think they do have a voice. They are the ones who are participating in college sports right now, and I think their voices are very valuable. And so, I'm going to, continue to do my best to have a voice to speak up for these folks, and hopefully there'll be something laws, legislation in place to make sure that they're protected, because there are a lot of young men and women that are being taken advantage of.
Yeah, and there's no players. That's the thing, Bobby. And I know you got to go, but there are no athletes in attendance. It's mainly commissioners, presidents, former, like Nick Saban's there, among some others, and then politicians, of course, as well. But there is no representation of anybody that's a player. And I did see a couple of comments made that the next level, they will absolutely be a part of it. I hope that maybe they'll call you and get you involved. One of the last things I wanted to ask you, your only 2 teams you played for in the NFL have won the last 2 Super Bowls. How much fun has that been, watching Philly win a second in recent years and then watching the Seahawks win this past year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, when people ask me who I identify with, I mean, I obviously identify more with the Eagles, but hey, I did play the 1 year in Seattle, but I'm not necessarily claiming that, but I think it's been great just, seeing what, both clubs have been able to do. Just thinking about the Eagles, I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I've been, rooting for him for years, very close with a lot of his family that are here in the Houston area. And, I just want them to keep on doing what they're doing and, to see what the Seahawks were able to do with the second year coach and, all of the above. That was obviously something that was, very pleasing to see as well. But yeah, I continue to root for, like I said, both of those clubs. One thing that I don't do, and I get a lot of people to ask me, I don't root against anybody. That's not how my energy works. I just root for the teams that I particularly played for. Obviously the Eagles are, on the top of the throne for me because that's where I, cut my teeth. They drafted me. I was there for 9 years of my 10 years that I played in the NFL. And, but yeah, it's always great to see, both of those clubs do well and hopefully they can continue to do that. I think they're definitely positioned to.
You are right in the middle of the NFL with operations department, director of corporate engagement, strategic advisor, an incredible entrepreneur, great football player, person, and athlete. Bobby, it's always great to see you, and thank you very much for jumping on to talk about Coach Holtz and also some other news and topics of today.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Irish. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you. Bobby Taylor with us on Lou Holtz and much more. And here he is. He's talking about this the round table that's going on. And one of the first things is a former player and also a guy who's very heavily involved in the NFL and on campus at Notre Dame every other month, as he mentioned. And he said, well, there needs to be representation, of course, of the players who play the game. And he's exactly right. 100% correct. We will have Rick Saratella. He's an NFL draft analyst, and now just after a few days of the NFL Combine winding down, we'll have him, and then Jeremy Modkins and more. We'll have the wheel, trivia, quizzes. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, and the weekend is here, and tonight they will have steak and shrimp as one of their specials for you if you're a member to enjoy the amenities and the great food, the top chefs, and also more. Tomorrow, smoked prime rib, plus half off any bottle of wine. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, and memberships available. Tell them we, 365 Sports, sent you. And then on top of that, special events coming up from luncheons to dinners to banquets and speaking engagements. They have all of what you need, the space and more, and they'll help you along the way from the time you commit to having something there until the day of that specific event. The Baylor Club, General Manager Nick Caldwell, inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
The time is now. It's time for a new ride at the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr GMC Buick Cadillac.
Sierra blends the premium interior with the muscle of a true work truck, built to handle the job and look good doing it. It's why GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. During our New Year New Ride sales event, qualified buyers can save $13,000 on a Sierra. Drive one home today for just $41,390.
Call now, get here now, or log on now for the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
This is 365 Sports.
Rick Saratello joins us, creator of NFL Draft Bible, but also the publisher of allaccessfootball.com. He'll join us here. You got him? Okay, we do not have him. Okay, we'll get him out. We're kind of in one of those modes, but we'll get Rick on just a second. I did notice this, and I'll ask him about it, that this year's NFL Combine in Indianapolis, there's a change, there's a trend where not everybody's going. It used to be everybody had to be there, and it's not quite the same as it used to be as far as that is concerned. Doesn't mean it's not highly attended, but at the same time, I'm going to ask him about that because there's so many ways to get information now with what's going on around special events. Back to what's going on today in Washington, D.C., a couple of more notes. The roundtable, Republican Lori Trahan telling President Trump that since there are no athletes here, she's representing the thousands of college players. She doesn't sound pleased at the absence of athletes at a 50-plus person roundtable. Same thing, Craig, you brought up, and many others have brought up as well. From Notre Dame AD Pete Bavacqua, reminding everyone that football drives decisions, a runaway financial train, and even the healthiest schools will make difficult decisions about Olympic and women's sports, and the guardrails people's feet need to be held to the fire, which is one of what in the message of Cody Campbell about Olympic sports and even the sports for women too.
Okay, let's put people's feet to the fire. How about we start with people like Pete Bavacqua, who allowed this to all turn into what it's turned into. You didn't need feet to the fire when the athletes were getting zilch. Oh, no, they were getting this and that. And I used to be one of those that would make the argument, or at least make the point of, you had a lot of people who were being dishonest and acting like they received absolutely nothing, which was ridiculous and maybe was true at the lowest of levels. It's certainly not true at Ohio State or even an Iowa State or whatever. I mean, free meal, free board, free merchandise, free travel is not nothing, but you're also doing a job, so that comes with the territory of the job. But that's all they were getting there for a time period, and you guys are perfectly content with that. When Pete Bavacqua was not having to worry about spending those millions of dollars on a wide receiver, but instead the gold fountain outside of his office or whatever the hell, like that was totally fine. But now the money's not totally in my control. We need people's feet held to the fire. I don't buy that from people like him. It's the pot calling the kettle black. And so spare me the athletic directors who want to bemoan the current system, especially the older athletic directors who are as much a part of the reason why the system stayed the system for as long as it did. So, yeah, I'm not buying that. I've seen Trump now make the comment on more than one occasion about – he just made a comment apparently to Cody Campbell and someone else about can we go back to the old system? No, we can't go back to the old system. Like, the fact that he's even asking that makes this whole thing just seem so silly.
I know. I think sometimes he will say things almost off the cuff, and in this particular case, he knows that that's not going to happen.
I don't know that he knows that that's the case.
He's actually said that today. He's actually said, I know we can't go back to that, but it would be nice if we could, right?
Yeah, but I don't know that he knows that entirely. But regardless of what he knows or doesn't know, is like, yeah, I mean, that's the big quotes from him are, can we go back to the old system? The quotes from the ADs are, this is unsustainable and it's all going to die if we don't do something. And I just like, okay, all right, whatever. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm glad that there is at least a getting together of some people. I didn't think about this earlier, and I came across it a couple of breaks ago, but somebody pointed out not only are they having a meeting with 50-plus people, which is typically not how you get anything done, but you're doing it on a Friday afternoon. Like, what serious meeting outside of you're getting fired happens like normally on a Friday afternoon?
A story that nobody wants to have any coverage of because that's when they call, what do they call, the news dump.
So we just met when nobody's really paying attention or is going to ask too many questions, because guess what? As soon as this thing's over with, guess what everybody goes back to doing at the White House? Asking about the current war going on or financial stories or oil or whatever the hell, all the stuff that's far more important than what we're talking about right now, quite frankly. So, yeah, I mean, you can do more than one thing at a time. It's just that this very much does feel like it's what people thought to begin with. It's very much a show, and if there's anything substantial that comes out of it, we're not going to find that out today. I know there was a couple of comments about how they feel like they've got bipartisan support on, I can't remember if it was the SAFE Act or the SCORE Act, and I get them confused, to be quite frank with you. But if that's true, great. Like, I don't think that's just a magic wand either. So, again, my opinion hasn't changed much in the last hour and a half since this thing's gotten underway. I felt like it was pretty much a song and dance that was at least an attempt to maybe make some progress. And I feel that it was a song and dance that maybe hopefully made some progress. But as far as ever thinking something substantial was coming out of this particular meeting, I never thought that. And that's clearly not going to be the case today. So I think we were all pretty much on the same line of thinking that was how this was probably going to work. But, there's a couple of quotes that if they turn out to actually have some substance and they're not just throwaway quotes, then, if you do have bipartisan support, even though, I don't know, the list I saw was not very bipartisan, but if you do have the assurances that there are others on the other side of the aisle that are going to help pass this along and get it back on track, then if you're in favor of that, then the SCORE Act or the SAFE Act, then that's good news, potentially, if that's true. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. The airing of grievances, I think, is kind of silly. Like, you've got Pete Bavacqua again, like, he's complaining is what he's doing. He's complaining about the things that suck now because he's had a lot of power and control wrestled away from him, as a lot of athletic directors have, even though he's still got more than most. So, yeah, there are some quotes that are like, okay, yeah, that needs to be mentioned. There's some quotes where you're like, all right, I'll believe that when I see it. And there's some quotes you're like, spare me your crocodile tears because the meeting's a direct result of your inaction. So it's kind of all over the place. It's interesting. It's definitely provided a fun backdrop of discussion as far as this show this afternoon goes, but we're nowhere different than we were when it began, and nor did we expect to be.
No, we didn't. And they are discussing the SCORE Act, which is not bipartisan. And
just
there's
said
a couple.
Again.
Yeah.
He just said it again.
Yeah.
Like, if you go look at Ross Dellinger, there's like 3 quotes from Donald Trump, again suggesting that the industry return to the pre-NIL era. I'd like to go exactly back to what we had and ram it through a court. So,
well, this is not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
He asked Cody Campbell if the SCORE Act is a good base and a smaller group should be convened to work on it. He said yes. I don't know if it was Mike Johnson or somebody else that mentioned that they feel like they have enough votes on the opposite side of the aisle to maybe move that forward. I don't know if that's ever going to be the case. I saw one, Jim Phillips.
There was one quote, and it was from Trump and it's like we're talking about, like, I think he knows better, but that's why I'm saying I don't know that he knows better. As far as this goes, I don't really think
he might think.
I don't think he says
thinks at a different level.
Ram it through a court.
No,
I think he really believes that he could probably do that. And the thing is like there's already been very high court rulings on this, and as powerful as he is, I don't think that's feasible. But there was a quote about, I think it was from the president on. It was the previous quote about going back to the old way. And he's saying it to Cody Campbell. And I saw people go, like, to say that to Cody Campbell, of all people, who's out here spending, like, I don't think Cody Campbell wants to go back to the old way, does he?
No.
Yeah,
what he wants to do is one thing.
Right.
Is combine and pull all of the television revenue into one place and then distribute it accordingly in certain ways. That doesn't mean everybody gets the same cut. But no, he doesn't want to go back to the same.
Somebody pointed out that it's just kind of funny that of all the people for him to say that to is Cody Campbell, who's like, Mr. Let's pay the players. You know what? If it's even close, we'll add an extra 0 just to make sure we get this guy. So yeah, there is a disconnect there on the message and the messagee, if you will. But I don't think that there's going to be any ramming this through the Supreme Court or anything like that, but you do have a lot of discussion surrounding it. So there is that, and I don't know. I saw a comment or two, and again, it's involving the president and politics. So it's just, and on Twitter, no less, it's just like, who the hell knows where it's coming from and all that kind of jazz. But, one person that I came across said, well, people are talking about it, and that's all the point was. It's like, I don't think that's the point. The point is to get something actually done. If the point of it is just to promote yourselves, then this is all pointless. And us merely talking about it does nothing to actually change what needs to be changed. So
again, I appreciate trying to get something accomplished, but today's not going to be the day. But perhaps this kickstarts into something, I don't know, or it might just never. Maybe we might be discussing the same problems in college athletics in 3 years. Nick Saban, Craig said, we have a challenge about ramifications about the current system, expresses concern as he has previously in athletes' future development. Given the situation, fans and support groups don't like so many players in the portal, he adds. And that is an issue. Players get what they want, but like we said yesterday, there's 24 men's basketball players who have spent all 4 years at the same school 24 players out of 351 teams in college basketball. 24 have been at the same school for 4 years, and that's like infinitesimal.
Well, I mean, I've definitely been one of those that's complained. I mean, I mentioned Chandler Morris a couple times on the show today, and I have nothing against the young man. I just think he's the most recent example of somebody trying to have their cake and never leave. And I don't want that as a college sports fan, because I think some of the charm is the turnover. The charm is getting to know Trinidad Chambliss, not that Jackson Dart was a ninth-year quarterback who's still sticking around Oxford, right? It's like, hey, it was fun to have Jackson Dart, but now it's time for this next guy. And that's what you get excited about. And that guy either flies or he fails or whatever. And then 3, 4, maybe 1 year later, you change. And that's a critical component of why that sport is unique versus the NFL. And I think there are some ideas that are worthwhile pursuing if you're college football. I think the NFL markets itself far better than college football does. But it's also a completely different system where everybody's Team NFL. This is Team SEC. This is Team Big 12. This is Team ACC. This is Team G6. This is Team. There's so many different tribes, so it's impossible to have like one chief, especially when all of the apparent chiefs are like, "No, I don't care about my tribe. I don't care about everybody else." And then you've got an occasional guy like a Cody Campbell that comes in and wants to be a guy who is trying to unite the whole thing, but it's just a lot easier said than done. And I don't know. I see comments sometimes of like, and this not speaking specifically about this, but in general of, oh, well, you're talking about it, so it worked. It's like, that's not true. That's just very, very simple-minded. So yes, people are talking about this, but if we're not talking about it a few days from now and nothing's changed, then this is all for naught and means absolutely nothing.
Urban Meyer said, don't call them collectives, call it cheating when it comes to NIL. Urban Meyer, who was at times kind of caught with his hand in the cookie jar in various ways.
Some people call it cookie, yeah.
Yeah, But Urban Meyer with that, and we mentioned the Saban quote, Jim Phillips and Tim Pernetti of the ACC, and Pernetti of the American Conference, both say their athletes do not want to be employees. And you've heard that before. And we've also seen schools, colleges that don't want them to be that way either.
Well, you know who I'd like to hear that from instead of a commissioner or a coach? From the actual athletes playing the sport. Get a player in there, which has been the big topic today, who actually is saying that same thing. Give me a swimmer from North Dakota or a volleyball player from Nebraska or a football player from A&M and have them go onto the White House and say, yeah, we don't want a collective bargaining agreement. We don't want to be employees. And let me hear that from them, not from a guy who doesn't want them to be employees to begin with. I'm not going to listen to that from somebody who's against it from the start. I think the part about the portal, going back to that, is that I don't think you can restrict the freedom of movement entirely, nor do I think you should. I think the transfer portal is actually kind of cool and actually kind of fun. It's just when it's like anything else. It was like the short shorts thing. Tate Sandell and the whole conversation about why did they make a rule about these guys in their shorts? Like, who cares what they're wearing out there? It's like, well, if you don't do something about it, the next thing you know, there will be some dude who's got Daisy Dukes on out there. Well, why do you care? Because I just think it's unsightly, and I don't care to see a dude's full thigh while I'm watching football. I want to watch him wear the same uniform as everybody else.
You can't wear shorts on the PGA Tour. It's a rule.
Why are there rules? Like, it's like that guy. And it's like, because there are rules, because this organization that runs this thing wants there to be rules, but why? It's like a child. Like, but why? But why? So yeah, if you let something just run wild, then it inevitably somebody's going to push the envelope as far as they possibly can. And so we've seen that with the transfer portal. The worst case scenario where there'll never be, somewhere if you really dug down, there's somebody somewhere. There'll never be somebody at 5 different schools. We'd need more than 2 hands to count the number of people that have approached that at this point. So, yeah, I don't think you can restrict the transfer portal entirely, nor do I want them to do that. I think the transfer portal's really good in some ways, but the unending freedom of it, that is ridiculous.
No,
that is ridiculous.
Because it seems like no matter what the rule is today, it changes by tomorrow. I remember when all this first started about the transfer portal and NIL. We used the word guardrails, and some of us thought we were being like all sorts of different things about it. They didn't like that. Guardrails.
But why? But why? Is that person? That person? Yeah.
But why? Because then maybe you won't have chaos. So Jeremy Modkins, former high school player that played at Marlin High School, went to TCU. His brother was a hell of a player there too. Played for Gary Patterson, also coached on Gary Patterson's staff, among other plays. Curtis Modkins is now on the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff. Jeremy was just hired recently by Baylor as a cornerbacks coach because Paul Gonzalez, is now followed Gary Patterson as a cornerbacks and defensive coach with USC. So Baylor needed to hire somebody. TCU, and a hell of a player. Jeremy Modkins will be next on 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners have put together a business that helps you save money, but also helps you find evidence of why are you hurting so badly. There are, if you ever get into chat, and by God, if you do, you need to make sure you wear a shield sometimes or a helmet. But seriously, a lot of good people, they just don't always agree. But a lot of guys have had bumps and bruises, aches and pains and surgeries and more, and had to get some way of finding out what it was, if it's your back or your knee or your ribs or what. And Ideal MRI will get the images to your doctor so they then can make either what they thought was the problem in the first place, a diagnosis, or change that and how they can work with you to help you get rid of the pain. Ideal MRI will also never charge you over $497 every single time, and sometimes less, inside the Central Texas marketplace in Waco. $497 or less every single time. The average MRI is over $1,000 at IdealMRI.com.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
The reason that their service is outstanding because the people they have working, behind the desk and the folks working out in the garage, taking care of business. And they give you a date, they give you a time, and they're spot on. And they're professional, they take care of it, and they answer all your questions, and they're fun to work with.
Like Alan Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
Baylor cornerbacks coach Jeremy Modkins with me, David Smoak, 365 Sports, and a local young man from Marlin High School back near his hometown and here with us on the show. Jeremy, congratulations. You've been around. You were, of course, played at TCU. You have coached throughout the country and TCU,
yes,
even in the NFL with the Vikings. But back home, was that something that you always wondered if you'd ever get close to where you were a high school star?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And first and foremost, thank you for having me. Definitely an honor and a privilege to be on with you. And this, like you say, just being back home, you can't ask for anything better. Growing up, being originally from Marlin, Texas, it was 20 minutes from here growing up. And, Baylor was our home team. And so it's kind of like a dream come true to be able to come back home and actually coach here at Baylor. So,
I saw this on your Twitter feed earlier today, and I'm not like stalking you or anything, but progress doesn't come without pressure. Go be great. I like things like that, and sometimes I need to read them myself. You put some of those mission statements or sayings or motivational things up quite a bit. What does that mean to you?
I think it means a lot. You know, I think that's the first thing I listen to in the morning. You know, is something that can feed your spirit, whether it's Eric Thomas or Les Brown or, you know, but it's something that's going to be able to feed your spirit. And I'm a big believer in things like that, and that's very true. It's hard to get progress without pressure. You know, if you think about all of your diamonds or anything that's worth any value, you know, there was some pressure that made it become what it is.
I don't know if any position really is more Phil, other than quarterback, perhaps on the opposite side, but cornerback is on an island. I mean, it's basically most of the time people don't know who you are unless you get beat or you pick off a pass, and it's a very difficult position. How difficult, Jeremy, is it to play, and what kind of guy do you have to play cornerback?
It's a very difficult position. You know, everybody else gets saved, but the corners. You know, and so you got to be a guy that's very competitive. You know, you got to be a guy that understands schematics, understand how offenses want to attack you. You know, and understand leverages. And but at the end of the day, you got to be a phenomenal competitor.
Jeremy Modkins with me, David Smoak, 365 Sports. Stephen Hodge, remember Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Former teammate at TCU. He's a great friend of mine. He's now coaching in high school. I covered him when he was at Tatum. He was a great player then. But is in the NFL for a short time with the Cowboys. He said you were considered at TCU, he was a freshman, the godfather of our defense. Yeah. Were you?
I don't know if they were saying I was old or it was just saying the wisdom that was there. But, you know, I'm glad that, you know, Hodge was a great friend of mine still to this day. And I'm glad to see what he's doing with his career. Phenomenal dude. And, you know, those are the type of the things that you got to have. You know, when he was a younger guy, we needed that leadership. And that was me at the time. And so, I think that's very important to have player-driven teams.
Everybody I contacted, and it wasn't all, a few that I knew you or coached you even back in high school.
Yes,
Stephen also said, I think that the Baylor got a steal. Wealth of knowledge, unbelievable, crazy football IQ, and they need you. And that doesn't mean Paul Gonzalez was not good at what he did. You know that, TCU and now at USC, but you are this is a place that Baylor has struggled in the last couple of years, and they've kind of been up and down, as you know. What do you see? You just started with the workouts on the field. What do you see so far? Is it too early to really know?
It's kind of a little bit too early to really know. I do know, you know, Paul's a great coach, and he left a good room. The guys in the room are unbelievable kids that they're willing to do whatever you ask them to do. So it's going to be fun, you know, this spring once we get into it, and of course going into the summer. And getting ready for the fall, you know. So I'm looking forward to to getting a chance to work with the guys, you know, on the field and you know, polishing up some, you know, putting some pressure up so we can come some good diamonds.
As you know, Gary Patterson now at USC, which is where Paul is, but he came and he was an analyst with Dave Aranda for a little bit, on and off at Texas as well. But his defensive teams, and you were a major part of that well before the Big 12 and then the Big 12. Always just scratching and clawing, and they just had the great scheme. How much of him do you have in your blood as a coach?
Well, it's kind of a part of me, I would say. You know, when I was a young coach, you know, with young players, just first and foremost, my first year at TCU was in 01, which was Coach Patterson's first year as a head coach. Mm-hmm. And so I played the safeties, played all the safety positions. And so he was essentially back then, you know, he's a DC, but he was kind of the safeties coach as well. And so, you know, just getting that wealth of knowledge from him early really started me going down that path of wanting to coach. And so, but he's been a great mentor of mine within this business. And that's, I owe a lot to Coach Patterson.
Tell me about your mom and the role and influence she had, and Curtis, your brother, that obviously they nurtured you, as they should, but as you grew up and became the player, the man, and the person you are then, or were then and are now today.
Yes, sir. My brother was actually, you know, the first person who gave me that example of what it looked like to actually go to college. You know, he spent a lot of time here at Baylor, actually, doing rehab when he was playing in Marlin. And so when he went on to go to TCU, I was kind of right in those footsteps along with him, whether he was going to class in the summertime or he was out, you know, working with his guys, coaching. I was right there with him. So I was blessed enough to have that example. and he's kind of led me along that path. You know, I'm a firm believer if you want to get somewhere, then you got to follow in the footsteps. So you got to do the research on people or where you want to go. And if you do that, then you got a better chance for success. And that's what I've done. And still to this day, he's my biggest supporter. He's my biggest mentor in the business, would be my brother. And then my mom, it's been a blessing. You know, being here close to home is definitely a blessing. I think things happen when they're supposed to happen, not when you want them to. I know even with the Baylor job came, you know, it's been a couple years in the making, I think, for me, and it's just third time's a charm. I've lost my grandma last year, and so this, you know, being here this year to be closer to my mom and be able to go back home, you know, maybe once or twice a week whenever I get some time to spend with her, it's valuable, man. I think that's why the Lord has put me also here closer to home.
Well, when you first told your mom that this is going to happen, like probably told her it might happen, but when it became official, did you say that to her on the phone, a text, in person? What was her reaction?
She was excited about it. You know, I think she was overwhelmed with joy, you know, first and foremost to have me, you know, at a school like Baylor, you know what I mean, with such great values, you know, and then just also be closer to home. And it was a blessing, but I can definitely hear it in her voice that she was definitely happy for me.
You know that what Baylor's done when it ran to the first year was COVID. Then they had the best year in Baylor history, which says a lot because they had the great run under Coach Briles in the early 2010s, and Grant Taft had some amazing teams too. But they need help, and they just seem like they couldn't get out of their own way. How much, and sometimes coaches have told me this when they come on, that they don't watch film of what was there before, and some do. What was your philosophy on that, and what do you see?
Well, I watched a little film on what they were just so I can get a feel of what the kids were. But we know being in the building, you know, it's an unbelievable building. I think Coach Runner's done an unbelievable job with guys that's in the building of creating a culture first and foremost. I think since the time I've been here, that's what's been driven. It's been that, you know, to be 1-0. To be smart, tough, dependable. You know, that's what we hanging our hats on, and you can see the guys are buying into it, and those are the traits that you got to have to win. You know, and he hammers that down every day in and day out, which is awesome.
A couple of other coaches that I Coach Vincent at Marlin,
Yeah.
Coach Brignac at Marlin. He goes, David, I've thought long and hard about this. Jeremy is a special kind of guy. He was raised by his mother. His brother Curtis was a huge part of his life. There were other athletes at Marlin that were more talented than him at times, but he succeeded due to his brother, mother, and his fight and motivation to be really good. Every day he gave everything he had. He was a great leader for our program.
Yes.
Yeah, this is like almost like an award-winning. Let's tell everybody about this is your life, Jeremy Modkins, right now.
Yeah, I appreciate Coach Vincent for the kind words, but just like we started this off with, I think every day we're blessed enough to see that day, then we should go out and experience greatness within ourselves and push ourselves to be great every day. And that's something growing up. I wasn't the most talented kid on my team, but I believe in work ethic. You know, watching my mom work 2 jobs and my brother, I believed in that. And those are the things that I hung my hat on growing up. And so I always wanted to outwork people. When I was gone in the summertime, I would come back and I would go get guys and we would go do drills and we would go out do schematical stuff, you know, on the football field. So it started a long time ago, but just waking up, if we blessed enough to see that day, then I'm firm believing that we should go out and be great and push ourselves.
There isn't another athlete that I have coached in my 38 years that has worked as hard as Jeremy, also from Coach Vincent. I'll have something from Coach Brignac in just a moment. So, Solvi, Jewel Modkins, that's your daughter, correct?
Yes, sir.
I again, I'm doing my homework, and I knew you because I've followed high school football for a long time, 45 years.
Yeah, I've known you too. You've done an awesome job.
Thank you very much. One bad memory, but you had gone to TCU, was the 2002 Marlin team that I don't, it was a Jeremy Sanders. No, who was it, the quarterback? They went and played Atlanta in Tyler for the state championship, and I did the broadcast of that game for a network there, and Atlanta was red hot. I brought that up to Rusty Nail, and he blocked my number because he knows. But I mean, Marlin has had some dudes, even recently.
Yes,
they've
sir.
had some dudes, and it's great. What was it like then to be a part of that program?
It was unbelievable. You know what I mean? We've always had talent, but when I was coming out and finishing in high school, Coach Jerry Malone was my head coach, and he was one of those guys, man. If he needed to pick you up, you needed a ride, you know, he made sure you got from A to B. You know what I mean? If you looked like you were hungry, he made sure you ate. You know, and so that's the type of coach that's needed in Marlin. I believe. I'm not sure if they hired anyone yet, but they need to have someone there that understand the kids and can get the kids back into that the athletics and also the academic part of it as well. But there's always been a lot of talent that came out of Marlin.
Jerry Malone was. I know he's gone, but he was. Oh my God! What a personality he was.
Yeah, he was a great personality.
That's a good way to put it. We'll just leave it at that. I think he went and started. He went to Longview later in his career and was coaching, I don't know, baseball or something. Got tossed out of a couple of games.
Yeah, that's him.
He was.
He was quite the personality.
He was very fiery. Coach Brignat, personality, laid back, humble, stands out. Jeremy was a great role model, and he kept on. But also said that that in 36 years of coaching, he's one of the rare athletes you never forget. Even now, I can see that sneaky smile, which we've seen since we said hi to you to start this interview.
Yeah, Coach Brignat, he's a good dude. That's you know, whenever you have coaches, you always remember. You know, you remember the good ones and you also remember the bad ones, but you also remember the conversation that you also had with a lot of coaches. And me and him had a lot of conversations, you know, and I've learned a lot from him, and I've applied, and I've still live a lot of the stuff that me and him talked about to this day. So.
He said he probably can't tell you a single stat from his high school days, but he doesn't have to because his numbers were bigger than just stats. But you had stats too, but that was from a couple of guys bringing a blow back to your past. So
I really didn't keep up with all that stuff. We just, you know, played football back.
Just go produce. So let's go back to your daughter. I saw it was the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. She was barrel racing. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So she does barrels, and she also competes in pole bending.
I saw that too. So the video was on your feed, and then I think I went to a video that she has, like on Instagram or TikTok. It's got like 500,000 likes or a bunch of thousands. What about her and the success she's having? That's not a sport that a lot of people can get involved with. It costs money. It takes a lot of time, and it's down to the millisecond, like running a 100-yard dash.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's phenomenal. I'm from Marlin, but I always tell people I'm country, but I ain't never rode a horse before. So I really don't know where she got it from or where she picked it up. But me and her mom Stephanie, we're just fortunate enough to be able to support her whatever she want to do. And she was about 9 years old, and she was playing basketball. And I'm watching my daughter. I recruit for a living. I'm like, man, that's not my baby. She got 2 left feet out there, you know. And so we got in horse lessons, and she took off. Like she loves animals first and foremost, but she took off, and she's nowhere close near a ceiling, and so she wants to continue to do it in college. And I really do, not saying everybody say it's my daughter, but I really do think that she can go as far as she wants to go with it. She has a natural ability and a nurturing with the horses and the companionship that they can just flow with one another. And it's pretty special to see. So.
And she had a gold medal, I think, for winning like a state championship in the pole bending or whatever it was.
Yes, sir. So she's the best in the state in pole.
How about she's a freshman?
She's a senior. She's a senior. She'll be
okay.
Yes, sir. So she graduates here in in May, and then she wants to go to Oklahoma State. She's actually going to visit her in Baylor here in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be pretty cool. But just extremely proud of her.
A couple more things. Jeremy Modkins, Baylor cornerbacks coach with us, Marlin, Texas. When you recruit, you look for certain instincts, traits that a player has, feet, hips, whatever, and speed. When you watch her on a horse, how do you see her if you were recruiting someone like for equestrian? Baylor's got an equestrian team or whatever. What do you see when you see her skills?
I would just first and foremost start out with her calmness and how she flows. It's like she's just so relaxed. It's like she belongs in the moment, you know, opposed to when I'm on the horse, I'm just all over the place, ready to get off of it, scared to nerves, you know. But she flows, man, and she just has an innate ability in her body to just ride with the horse, and they ride together. And she has all the nonverbal communication deals you got to have with touching your feet and the light hands and all that. And but she's really good. Like I say, I was watching her play basketball, and I knew that wasn't her. I knew she wasn't a basketball player. But just watching on a horse, everything's just so natural to it, which is the same you would if I'm looking at the corner. I'm looking to see how natural is his cover ability, and it's the same with her as riding horses. So it's pretty cool.
Was Gary Patterson harder on you as a player or as a part of his staff?
You know, there's it goes both ways. You know, if I'm being quite truthful, you know, as a player, you got to get it, but as a coach, you're held more accountable to making sure your players get it as well too. So I think it went both ways. You know, of course, he went as hard at me probably as a coach, but he definitely coached me as a coach.
How would you describe? You mentioned the culture around the building with Coach Aranda. How would you describe now that you've been around him for a little bit? Because at times people don't quite get him, and you know there's pressure to win right now, and you're joining a staff where there's pressure to win. How do you describe what you see from him?
I think he's an unbelievable dude. You know, being in the building, you know, outside looking in. Now I'm in the building. I actually get a chance to have a relationship with him. He's an unbelievable dude, and I think people are important to him. You know, going 1-0 is important to him. You know, smart, tough, dependable. That's very important to him. You know, and those are the things that he talks about, and those are the things that he preaches to not only the staff, but also to the players. And it's continual. And he's doing a great job right now of building a culture. We just, this past weekend on Saturday, we went and had a community event, and we was out helping move furniture into these homes that's going to, you know, provide housing for homeless people. So we're doing a lot of stuff like that, you know, just culture building. As coaches, we're in the locker rooms, before the workouts with the guys, just fellowshipping with them. You know, it's weird because, well, not weird, but you can tell how it works, because my first day I got here, you kind of see it was kind of first time doing it. But now you go down there, the guys are looking for you. You know, they're looking for you and ready to have those conversations with you and ask you how your day been and things of those natures. So, and everybody knows, you know, player-led group wins, you know, and right now building a culture is very important to coach around. And like I say, being here the short time I have been here, I can tell right now, I love working for him. He's a phenomenal dude. And, you know, just what we're talking about is just being tough, smart, and dependable. And that will go a long way for us in the season.
That was also on your Twitter feed. A question about the guys are just now starting to get on the field where you guys get to spend a little bit of time. I'm not sure the timeline, spring practice or whatever. How much fun is it? How much do you enjoy the practice part of it when that actually begins as a coach? Yeah. Or is it the week of game or game plan or game day? How would you put those in order of what gets your adrenaline going?
You know, I'm a grass guy, you know what I mean? I think I've kind of measured coaches by what, you know, how they are on the grass, you know what I mean? And I'm a grass guy. I love being in the classroom, love learning, love doing all that with the guys. But I think, you know, being out on the field, being out on the grass, whenever you can smell the grass, you know, especially being here in you know, in Waco, you know, being from Marlin, the grass smells a little different, you know, when it's football season. And so I'm a grass guy. I love being out there in practice, whether it's practice or we're having a walkthrough or we're in, you know, having a game. But that's kind of who I am. And then the second, I probably just anytime, you know, you're able to be with the guys and fellowship, I think is awesome. Practice, again, meetings, it can be games. But anytime you're around the guys, I think you have a chance to be impactful. So any time that I'm doing that, I love, and I love what I do, period. So
you can tell. One thing I want to let everyone know, your sophomore year at TCU, you had 99 tackles. Of course, you were playing the safety position. I think you had told me 99 tackles, 72 of those solo, had tackles behind the line of scrimmage. You were kind of like fearless back there. And what was that like to be able to like control the secondary and also even the run game from that position?
It carried over to, you know, coaching, just the words that you can use, because back then the safeties was a quarterback of the defense, and it's still the same to this day. So when I had that type of responsibility at safety, I was responsible for showing up in the run game. I was responsible for showing up in the pass game as well. And so, but I really, if you should like that, you know what I mean? If you want to play football, especially at a high level, you should like the responsibility of being a quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. And, and being able to make plays, whether it's showing up in the run game or pass game or getting guys in the right, schematics as far as alignments, and because as you know, a step this way could cost you a step that way. So you got to be very, very sharp with your alignments and be ready to fly around at any given moment. And then, of course, you got to be willing to have contact.
Yeah, no. And Curtis was an offensive guy, right? He's the running.
Yes,
he's still a running backs coach with the Vikings.
Yes, sir. So he's a running backs run game coordinator with the Vikings now. And like I say, he played running back, especially in high school. And he spent a lot of time here at Baylor when he was in high school, just rehabbing, just doing that. I still remember those days vividly. Him in the cold tubs and coming up there and working with my Uncle Jeff. So
I remember your name when I was actually in East Texas with Marlon, and then of course your journey to TCU and elsewhere. Watched you as you've moved around as a coach. I wish you the best of luck. I'll get to see you here pretty soon. I know you're busy. Thank you very much for your time, Jeremy, and have a great rest of your week.
Again, thank you so much, and you do a great job too as well. So
thank you, Jeremy Modkins, quarterbacks coach at Baylor. All right, thank you to Jeremy Modkins and his time with us on 365 Sports. It is time for the wheel. Here we go. What TV shows are underrated these days and easy to binge? Andrew's pick, The A-Team or Twilight Zone?
Oh, that's interesting you mentioned Twilight Zone. I'm sure a lot of people have like the free TV apps if you have a smart TV. So there's like Pluto and all sorts of others that have sprouted up. And I've actually found myself kind of enjoying like the Twilight Zone channel here lately. It's like more of a background, but there's like a World War II channel and there's a Green Acres channel. And there's like, I don't know, it's weird. I've as much as is available, I've found myself like going back to what was only available when we had like 3 options, and it's like all the old stuff like Twilight Zone and things. So yeah, it's just funny you mentioned that because I've watched more of that in the last like month than I had probably in my entire life leading up to that. But under the radar, underrated shows, gosh, I'm trying to think. Most of the shows I watch are pretty popular. So I don't feel like this would have been a good question for the TV guide and Paul. I know you probably don't have much of an answer. Are you Googling names of TV shows just to have an answer?
No, I don't have an answer because
underrated? You may have heard of this Game of Thrones show.
Yeah.
I actually, that was my favorite show. I still think at its best, it's the best TV show ever. And I love The Wire, and I love Deadwood, and I love Sopranos, a lot of the HBO type stuff. Love a lot of the FX stuff as well, like Justified, Sons of Anarchy. But all those are pretty well acclaimed.
Twilight Zone, is that one? Twilight Zone? Did you say that already?
That's it, literally in the question. It's literally the question, and I just talked about how I had Pluto and I was watching Twilight Zone.
A couple of people are agreeing with Twilight Zone.
Yeah, okay. So I thought you were just asking that randomly.
No, they're agreeing with
it. Yeah, Twilight Zone. It's a classic. Gosh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I watch most of the hits. Everybody knows about The Bear. That's one of my favorite shows as well, but that's not really under the radar. So yeah, I don't have anything for this one.
You know, here's what I do, and I've said this before, and I love YouTube TV. Like last night, I wrapped some things up, did some business. I got ready for bed, and I turned it on Netflix, and I watched season 3, episode 5, 10 minutes into Homeland. And then next day, it might be a different type Netflix show. I'm more and more into that now. I can't even tell you what are some of the weeknight type shows in television. I just can't. I don't know. I know there's game shows. I don't know about anything else that is on during any kind of prime time. TV's done. It's just I don't. It doesn't mean it's not on YouTube TV, but I don't know.
Yeah, so not a great answer for this. It's like I appreciate the person that asked the Metallica question the other day, and I like stewed all night, kind of upset that we couldn't better answer that because none of us are like big enough Metallica fans to name off our favorite albums. But I do appreciate whoever submitted that. I felt bad we couldn't do better by you, and can't really do much better with this answer, I don't think, as well. So there you go. Just rattled off some very famous TV shows that are over the radar, but those are my favorite TV shows.
Craig, here's one of the quizzes for us. Go ahead.
Before the college football playoff era, which team was the only one to win 3 consecutive AP national championships? Minnesota, Alabama, Notre Dame, or Nebraska?
I wish it was the last one in red, not the one in crimson, and it's not the one in green. It is Minnesota.
Yeah, I do believe it's Minnesota as well. Let's see.
There you go.
The Golden Gophers are the only program to pull off a three-peat in the AP poll era, winning titles in 34, 35, and 36, while other teams have claimed 3 in a row via different selectors. Minnesota is the only one recognized by the AP. And, yeah, we had Georgia was knocking on the door of that. And
well, Nebraska, Georgia, USC, with the Bush liner.
The unclimbable mountain for some people, though. Not even Saban's Alabama teams.
Guess who's never won 3 of anything else? A Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hard to do.
Yep.
It's really, really hard to do it once, much less twice, and then to do it 3 times. That's why I think the Bills losing 4 consecutive Super Bowls is like the unsurpassable, just craziest kind of mark, because to just simply get there 4 times and to not win a single one of those is just that's wild. And I don't imagine that'll ever be done ever again. Like, you win at least one of them, or you don't go 4 consecutive years, but you don't go 4 straight years and lose all of them. That's insane.
Well, and especially the way they lost a couple of them early on. The one to New York, if they kick the field goal, Norwood's good, they may win 3 or 4 in a row. Who knows?
Is there a possibility that anybody will win 3 in a row these days? Is it more likely or less likely?
With the run the SEC had for about 18 or 20 years, with Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Florida not being able to do it, or the mid-'90s, Nebraska not being able to do it, and Miami didn't do it, I don't know if it'll ever be done again.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it being done, and I'm thinking if it's harder now than it was then when they couldn't do it then, and I would think now you're all of a sudden having to deal with Texas Tech or some team like that, Indiana, that you weren't having to deal with before. Before, you're still just having to go, all right, it's Ohio State or it's Texas or it's Michigan or it's LSU or whoever, and the usual suspects. And now you've got Indiana, Texas Tech, schools like that are also now in the mix, and in some cases better. In the case of Indiana, the best. So, yeah, I think it might be even harder now, which means we're probably never going to see it happen.
The group of teams who can win it has increased because of –
and the players have – watered down as far as the per team level of talent. So, yeah, I think it's probably not something we'll ever see. It would be incredible if it happened, but Georgia, the closest we've gotten.
Minnesota, how about that? Yeah. All right, who's next? What's next? All right, only 2 number 16 teams have ever upset a number 1 seed in the NCAA men's tournament. We all remember UMBC, University of, Maryland something, Baltimore County, in 2018, but who was the second team to pull off the impossible feat in 2023? I want to say it was Fairleigh Dickinson, but I'm just guessing.
This was just 3 years ago. Why do I not have a better memory for this?
I've already made my pick.
I mean, I'll go with Fairleigh Dickinson. That does sound familiar, and it seems to ring a bell. So, yeah, there you go. And you were right, or we were right. 2023, FDU, stunned number 1 seeded Purdue, 63-58. Boy, you are really testing my eyesight with this. I feel like I'm XLMT, like I'm at the eye doctor or something. But FDU entered the tournament.
If I'm at the eye doctor, I'm screwed on this one.
Yeah, entered the tournament ranked number 301 in the net rankings with the 363rd ranked strength of schedule. It makes it even crazier. FDU didn't even win their conference tournament. They got in because the team that beat them, Merrimack, was ineligible for the tourney due to NCAA transition rules. So there you go. We were right on Fairleigh Dickinson, and now that you fill in some of the blanks there, I do recall some of those details. And yeah, okay, cool. Good
All
call.
right. Now, Best sport to listen to on the radio. This is one of the poll questions for those of you who watch us, however you do. There is no question that this is wrong with whoever voted for football. I know it's your vote, but there's nothing, even to this day, more natural than listening to a baseball game on radio, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose one of the four and I could only do that moving forward, I would choose baseball. But I'm also nostalgic for Eric Nadel, who was the Rangers voice and who's kind of, sort of, maybe kind of still is in a way. He's just there, like he's like on that old man routine now where it's like you're still healthy enough and good enough to be around a little bit, but you have like that part-timer schedule sort of thing going on. And so Eric Nadel is not like every night you flip it on like I used to be able to and I hear him. It's like now it's Jared Sandler or it's who's the other guy?
Mark Hicks?
Yeah, Mark Hicks or whoever. But, man, when it was just Nadel there for a while, and he had some others in the booth with him too. But, yeah, there was nothing better than that, like in the middle of July on a trip or on a ride back home from work, listen to the Rangers versus whoever. But, you know, you listen to Kevin Harlan, and he can call some damn NFL on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's damn good.
He's unbelievable, yeah.
So I think the NFL or football's got great broadcasts as well. Yeah, the Stars have a great broadcast crew.
Razor and all of them.
Yeah,
yep.
But basketball, I'm not really into that on the radio. So, yeah, I'd go baseball. But football, if Kevin Harlan's calling it, then yeah, I'm right there.
The regional sports networks, which some of them, of course, have died, really kind of changed things up a little bit rather than just the national broadcast. But when I sold radio in the 90s and 2000s, and we had the Rangers as an affiliate, year after year, it was overwhelming as far as the Arbitron ratings that would come out on baseball as the overwhelming favorite for radio because of the pace of it. It's slower. It's more like it's just a different
animal.
Hear
the crack of the bat. You hear the chirping of the people in the stands.
It's not nonstop. In baseball, you let the game pause. You don't have to say something every there's a pause. All right, now. What's your favorite Hanna-Barbera classic?
Ooh, really going with the wild card.
Oh, this is easy for me, but I did not win this either. I wonder what the ages are of the voters. 77 votes.
Yeah, I think I'd go Scooby-Doo, so I am in line with everybody else. I think I'd go Flintstones at 2. And then probably Tom and Jerry and then the Jetsons. So I'd just flip the top spot maybe. I would keep the top spot, just maybe flip number 2 and number 3. But, yeah, Scooby-Doo's great. I mean, all of these are great. And I do have some fond memories of watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons growing up and still sometimes to this day, like at random times. So, yeah, Scooby-Doo works for me.
I picked Flintstones. It's one of my favorite ever. The Jetson would have been 2, and I don't even know if I ever watched much of Scooby-Doo and Tom and Jerry. So, all right. Very interesting, Andrew. Thank you very much on the polls, the quizzes, and also setting up the wheel.
Do you want Ross Dellinger's recap on the big meeting at the White House?
No, I know that President Trump said he would try to come up with some sort of a bill or whatever.
Well, here's where we are.
Slam it through.
As we enter the weekend, a recap. This is word for word from Ross Dellinger, who's been there and covering this meeting and the 50-plus people involved from all walks of life. A recap. Donald Trump plans to release a second executive order, this one more comprehensive, that it appears will return college sports to concepts of the pre-NIL era, and he is expecting the order to get sued and hoping to get a favorable judge. End scene. He also did add, while writing this order, which is expected to be issued in a week, lawmakers will continue negotiations for a federal solution, but Trump believes a bill to be virtually impossible because of lunatics in Congress, he claims. So, folks, nothing's getting done. Nothing's getting done, which is not a surprise to most people out there, and it's kind of turned into what most feared, which is just kind of just more talk and less action. So, yeah, right now, this song and dance looks like it was a song and dance. And I don't think that method's likely to change anything, but we will see how this all works in the coming days. So there you go. There's the recap from Ross Dellinger.
All right. Thank you very much, Craig. By the way, firefighter Smokey likes the Flintstones. It reminds him of the youth living with the dinosaurs.
Yes,
Right.
he had his pet Dino.
Yeah,
and,
Dino.
Yeah.
Fred.
Yeah, the big T-bone steaks and all.
Wilma!
I did love
Yeah.
the Flintstones.
Yeah. Barney Rubble.
I liked Flintstones vitamins growing up. Those were delicious in a weird way as a child. So, yeah, do love the Flintstones, but Scooby-Doo's hard to beat. So there you go.
All right, all of you have a great weekend. Back on Monday at 3, we'll be here, 365 Sports. We'll see what happens. The final weekend of the Big 12 men's basketball season. We'll know about the women's tournament and much more. For Craig Smoak and also Logan Begesi, and for Andrew Valade, and of course Brandon Rowe and Garrett Ross, I'm David Smoak. Thank you from the TFNB, your Bank for Life studio. This is 365 Sports.